All right. I think my mic's working. Um, yeah, it's a picture of my nasty old gaming desk setup with my overhead camera, my poor quality overhead camera. I need to get a better quality. I need to get a better quality camera. Trying to get my coffee mug open here. Hold on. I'm not feeling the greatest. I came back from the comic book shop today and I went grocery shopping. I had like an asthma attack. I hadn't had one of those in a long time. I had a pretty bad asthma attack. I had to like go to bed. So I'll be clearing my throat a lot. It's bugging me. I went on like a 3 mile walk though, and it later that evening it wasn't too bad. I get it every once in a while. I think that comic shop, it was clean, but I think it was a little, I don't know. I mean, I breathe in dust from work all the time, so I shouldn't be trying to blame it on a comic shop. Who knows? Maybe I've got COVID. Oh no. Are you allowed to say that? I don't know. Who gives a fuck? But yeah, I went to the comic book shop today, a new shop I'd never been to. They gave me 10% off. I spent $60. I just got new stuff. There was something I wanted to get. I also picked up some digital copies of some stuff that I was going to go through because it's been a while. I bought one the other day and I just kind of breezed through it real quick on the Kindle setup on Amazon. But a couple of comic books I've gotten recently. This is a Kickstarter, Kaijus and Cowboys. Even though the main character's kind of blocking the title there, it's pretty cool. This is Frankie B. Washington, 2021. I think this is issue 1. They sent me an issue 0. They sent me like a prequel. I got all 3 so far, and I've backed the newest one. I don't know when I'm going to get it. I think it's going to be early next year is when it'll be done. I could be wrong about that. But this is one that I've kickstarted. I haven't read through this one yet. I just got this one in the mail the other day, but this is Kaijus and Cowboys. It's pretty cool. He's got a real specific art style, kind of he just likes drawing. He's inspired by Shogun Warriors and stuff like that, Godzilla. So he likes drawing big monsters, giant monsters, and his style kind of fits that. It's a little bit of a throwback, but his main character is kind of based on it's the bot with no name, kind of like a Clint Eastwood type, the Clint Eastwood character, spaghetti western character. But that's pretty neat so far. And he's got like an assistant robot guy, a little bit inspired, just a tiny. He's kind of comic relief, but he's a little inspired like by Machine Man. He's got like the arms that can elongate and stuff like that. So he says he's inspired. His main inspirations are like Herb Trimpe, and I love Herb Trimpe too. I love old Herb Trimpe stuff. That's Godzilla, Shogun Warriors. He had a big long run of the Hulk. He's more of a Silver Age artist, but he did some work in the Bronze Age as well. He died. He died about 7-8 years ago, I think. I know Rob Liefeld had one podcast episode dedicated to Herb Trimpe. It was really good. Really good. Oh, what else did I get? So today I got those from Kickstarter. I didn't get those at the comic book shop, but I broke down and bought all the Deadpool Batter Blood. That's Deadpool Batter Blood #1. My OBS disconnects on YouTube. The girl that runs the shop said that they were sold out, and I pretty much picked up her. I don't even know what. Let me look at something here. I don't even know what settings I put my thing on here. Yeah, it looks fine. HD. That's all I care about. Good enough. But I picked up her last copies of these. Now she had a variant cover of one of them, but I got all four. I even got the new one that came out. I got these all out of whack. But yeah, this is Rob Liefeld, Chad Bowers. It's just fun stuff. Liefeld says in his podcast, episode, Liefeld says he thinks this is his best work. I mean, I'm not a huge Liefeld fan. I'm not a huge Image guy. I'm not a big fan of most of those guys. Batter Blood, Barb. Hey, Rob, how you doing? Hey, you need to send me a link. Yeah, I picked him up today at a comic shop I'd never been to before. Yeah, I know you don't like you're not a Liefeld. I'm not a '90s comics guy. I think a lot of them are barf. Period. But they're fun though. I like the. I picked this up more for inspiration than I read through the first one. Yeah, I mean, I'm a 70s, 80s comics guy. I just don't see like that Captain America you went over the other day. I had that as a kid. That's in my wheelhouse. I love that stuff. They threw Jack Kirby a bone though. When I was growing up, Jack Kirby was frowned upon. Like all the dudes in my neighborhood, they hated Jack Kirby art. It's like, ew, John Byrne, George Perez, those were the guys. Howard Chaykin, all those guys, those were the dudes. I was, and my friends were like comic book snobs. Like Jack Kirby. And I appreciated, we're talking about the 70s when Jack Kirby was his artwork was considered in my group of dickhead friends. I had some real snob comic book friends growing up. One guy wouldn't get anything unless it was John Byrne, But yeah, I picked up the Deadpool stuff. But yeah, and if you had DC comics, you got picked on. DC was frowned upon, and I grew up in small town Indiana. I don't know if that has anything to do with. I grew up on a college town though, in a college town, and my friends were snobby when it comes. I got an IDW. I don't know what I'm doing with this overhead camera here. Normally, I have something. I've got my damn drawing. I've got my damn Huion drawing tablet here. I normally have a stand where I can put my comic books because normally I look at them digitally. But he would throw away anything. Oh, Jack Kirby, look how old that looks. And I always appreciated Jack Kirby because I knew he was the king of the world builders. There is no Marvel without Jack Kirby, really. Stan Lee, give me a break. Stan Lee is so. I mean, Stan Lee's an icon, of course, but. I mean, they could have done without Stan Lee. He was a great ambassador for. Speaking of badass, I got the facsimile of Rom #1. I'm just mumbling on about what they thought when I was a kid. Yeah, you couldn't have. See, comic books were different. If I wore a Batman T-shirt, which wasn't that. See, Batman was a joke when I was growing up. Like you get beat up in school. You get picked on if you wore a Batman shirt. Oh, yeah. Batman was a clown character when I was a kid. And believe it or not, like Batman was at his low, especially with like regular people that didn't read comic books because all they knew was the silly Adam West stuff. So, yeah, it wasn't cool to like DC. Even when the Superman movie came out, if you wore like a Superman shirt to school, you get made fun of and picked on. I wore a Captain America shirt, and a couple kids was, they would bully me a little, pick on me and stuff. But I did more bullying than the other way around. I picked up these IDW G.I. Joes. They're not very good. I'm just a big G.I. Joe fan from the early 80s. I got a G.I. Joe t-shirt, too, at the shop. But this is what I went for, though, the facsimile of Rom #1. Sal Buscema, Bill Mantlo. And I've got that. So that's basically what I picked up. I know Image Comics has taken over G.I. Joe now they're going to start with the legacy numbering of 301. So I got number 300, cover B, variant cover B, 300. That's pretty cool cover. The artwork's kind of but it's Larry Hama. I know Larry Hama pissed people off, I guess, with putting politics in books in the last 5 or 6 years. But yeah, I think Image has G.I. Joe now, starting at 301. I saw a picture of the cover. I don't know when it comes out. I hope I'm not mistaken about that, or somebody was goofing on me or something. But I love G.I. Joe. I'm a G.I. Joe nut. So I had every G.I. Joe from the 80s before I lost my collection. But yeah, I think Image has G.I. Joe. I'm hoping I'm right about that. So I'll have to look into that. So I bought like 297, 298, 299, and 300 just to kind of catch up. Even though the art's not that great. It's IDW, man, you know. But let's see. I haven't done this in so long. I can't remember what Stream Deck. Like, yeah, there we go. ROM. I got the digital copy of ROM #1, which this really, I saw that they were remaking this, and I mean, this just floods me back, man, of memories. 1979, I had the toy by Parker Brothers. Parker Brothers, you think of board games and stuff, but they had the ROM toy. I think it was Parker Brothers. It's either Parker Brothers or Mattel. I had the toy. I know that. My buddy had it too. But he was ROM nut. You had the toy. Yeah, I had the ROM toy at one time. I don't know if you're making fun of me, but yeah, I mean, that's fine. I don't care. I was 11 years old. I mean, come on. I mean, ROM was badass. It had you put the batteries in, you had he'd light up his like analyzer, his alien analyzer thing. What I like about this facsimile, the digital, it's got the old ads. Aren't they really rare? Yeah, I mean, I didn't have it for very long. I didn't keep good care of a lot of my toys when I was a kid. I had the Godzilla. I had the big Godzilla. I had the Shogun Warrior. I had the Micronauts. And none of them are... I think my mom either got tired of me leaving them around the house and she'd throw them away, my mom and dad went through hell and high water to get me that Godzilla for Christmas back in like 78. They drove in a blizzard to Indianapolis to get one of the last few, because the toy was so hot. They went to Children's Palace in Indianapolis in 1978 to get me that freaking Godzilla toy, because they knew I was going to blow up on Christmas morning, because I knew my neighbor kid, I knew my best friend next door neighbor, his dad had already gotten one for him. And if he was going to have one on Christmas morning, come hell or high water, I was going to have one. It was the same with that Stretch Monster, Stretch Armstrong Stretch Monster. Yeah. Oh, we had competition for Christmas mornings. It was crazy. But yeah, I was a royal pain in the ass as a kid. I had to have the toys. I'm a pain in the ass now, but yeah, this is ROM. This is Sal Buscema. A lot of people look down on Sal Buscema a little bit. That's John Buscema's younger brother. I love Sal Buscema's art. I love the way he, it's a little more cartoony than John Buscema, who did, he's one of the Mount Rushmore comic, legends from the Silver Age. He was the guy, like the art director for Marvel for the longest time. They called him Big John Buscema. But, he did Conan, and he's just, besides Kirby and Ditko, he's probably number 3 on the list of the most famous, like, Silver Age type, Silver Age artists that hung around in the Bronze Age a little bit until Marvel kind of, okay, we're done with it, because comic books were changing. But yeah, I love this. So I want to eventually get them all, but I love the way they put these old ads in there too. I remember looking through these. This is 1979, by the way, when this came out. Like I said, I was like 11 years old. But yeah, the snapping chewing gum and shit, man, they had some cool shit. But like $1 was a lot of money back then. Like if I had $1 in my hand, fuck, I could get 3 comic books. You know, I had 3 comic books right there. I'd probably get 2 comic books and a candy bar or some shit. But that was $1. I mean, $1. If you could get it, if I could come by $1 a week when I was 11 years old, I thought I was freaking. I thought I was doing things. You know, if I could go in and steal a couple quarters from my mom from her, coin collection thing, and man, I thought I was really something. But it would all go to comic books and video games and candy bars and stuff, and movies. Have to have the movie fare. But my mom would usually give me like $5 a week. But I was supposed to spend some of that on some lunch money, and I'm like, if Robert, if you're still there, I need you to send me a link on how I can get your Masters of the Universe fan fiction comic book. I don't know if you're still there or not, but you might have just said, man, I'm not listening to this bullshit about old comic books again. But yeah, if you're not there, I'll have to hit you up I'll have to hit you up, but you got to drop me a link on how I can get a copy of that, of your fan fiction Masters of the Universe. Dude, I love that shit, man. I was like, oh my God, dude, this is badass. Whew. And I was trying to tell you that last time, and you said, "Oh, the stream's over. I gotta go." And I was like, I was in the middle of doing something else because I'm normally, listening to like 3 things. And I was like, I didn't get a chance to, and then I forgot about it. But yeah, drop me a link and let me know if you take PayPal or something, and then you can do me an invoice. I don't know how much I would pay for the shipping, obviously, and whatever you were, because you said you made some to sell to your friends, and I didn't get a chance to even hit you up on that. And I think you said you were going to expand it and maybe like do a kind of your own version of Masters of the Universe, change the characters, but base it on Masters of the Universe. I'll get with you. I just got home on a 3-day FanX convention. I'm unpacking and do it, but yeah, I can. Oh yeah, awesome. Oh, you were at a 3-day fan. Oh, that's nice. Where was that at? Did you sell your own artwork? I didn't know if were you there like yeah, you live in Utah, right? Yeah, Salt Lake City. Oh, that's cool, man. 3 days. But I didn't know if you were there like looking, or you were there actually had a booth or something that you were selling your own. Obviously, you can't sell Masters of the Universe commercial. I mean, you don't. If you own the license, then you're my best friend. But you wouldn't be here right now if you own the license to Masters of the Universe. But yeah, I wouldn't mind getting my hand, because I'm in the process of trying to get my comic book. I'm in the process of making my own comic book, and I'm a serviceable artist. I can design characters, but yeah, I can't render shit and make it look comic book. No, it's an under the table. Yeah, I knew it was under. Yeah, I figured. Fan comic masters in original art commissions. Yeah, artists. Oh, okay. You were doing the artist booth. Okay, cool. Damn, I didn't know that. That's badass. You should have Did you live stream from there? You should have, man. That would have been cool. Yeah, I love this Sal Buscema. I love how he grabs the back of her car. It's like, oh, this is human. Just then they delve into the origin of the Galador Knights and Rom, how he volunteered to be like one of the space knights and stuff. But this is cool. She about runs off the road. I love that scree right there, and he's standing there all badass. And then he grabs the back of I don't know what kind of car that is. Some sort of sports car or something, but someone's standing in the road. Look at that hair. And then he does the the alien analyzer thing to see if she's a dire wraith. And that's it. I didn't, but I should have live streamed from there. Posted some pics YouTube next time I should. Yeah, that'd be cool to live stream from there. I don't know. You could do it to, you could do it to you could do it to YouTube, I guess. Guess that would work. As long as you got mobile, or whatever, a decent, I don't know if TikTok would be better or something like that. Who knows? A lot of people don't like that TikTok, that Chinese spyware or whatever. Not that YouTube isn't, but I shouldn't say that. But I love this picture right here, Sal Buscema. That's classic Sal Buscema with the hand jetting out right there and like the energy. And he's like, nope, that's a real human. I'm unharmed. He didn't do anything to me. I was enjoying when I breezed through this the other day. I was enjoying Hubba Bubba. I remember these ads, man. I bet they sold the shit out of Hubba Bubba because I started getting from Bazooka Joe to Hubba Bubba. Yeah, signal strength in that building is iffy. You probably have to get yourself one of those like account things that lets you do that stuff. That's kind of expensive though, I think. I don't know much about that. Like live streaming on the go. Like some of those chicks on Twitch and stuff, they like walk around like Paris or something. Those ex-porn stars. Not that I watch them or anything. But those ex-porn stars that walk around. I wonder who drew that ad. It looks very I don't know. It's not any ad, probably just some random commercial guy. But I got Hubba Bubba. That gum was nasty. It had like a coating on it so it wouldn't stick to your face when you blew the bubble. So that part's accurate. Problem is the taste went away in like 90 seconds. And then if you didn't chew the whole pack within a week, it's like that shit. Who knows what chemicals they were putting that shit back then. But I remember it was like we would test it. We'd blow, because my buddy could blow like a huge bubble. And the other gum would get stuck in his hair and shit. And we tried it with Hubba Bubba. Man, why am I talking? You know what I'm saying. But yeah, it worked. It's just not, it would stick to your hair a little bit. But it worked. This gunfighter, never mind. The creature from space at the movie theater here. Yeah, that's Rom, Creature from Space. I just loved Rom, man. The comic was better than the toy. The toy was a little chintzy. It was cool, but once you had the Shogun Warriors, I had one of those Shogun Warriors, and then Rom was kind of like, eh. I just pretty much got it. I had my mom buy it for me because my buddy had it. And it was keeping up with the Joneses like every week. But yeah, now he analyzes these guys and they're, this reminds me of like that Roddy Piper movie, They Live, where he's got the glasses, he can see them. The dire ray. This predates that though. But that's badass how he shoots the dire. This is some of Sal Buscema's best stuff, I think. He did some cool stuff with the Avengers in like the late 70s or the mid, 76, 77. But he did some good, like the Graviton issue with the Avengers, and when they did Wonder Man versus Division and stuff like that. Those were some great issues. But I thought his ROM stuff was some of the best he's done. Because, he can kind of, they had to base everything on the toy, but Bill Mantlo basically, I think they made a deal with Parker Brothers. Once Star Wars went over licensing, that just opened the door. Because Stan Lee didn't want Star Wars, Roy Thomas took over. I mean, Roy Thomas fought to get Star Wars. The only successful licensing that they had really done is Conan, and Conan was a huge seller for Marvel in the 70s. It was always in their top 5 or 6 selling books, besides, behind Spider-Man, Fantastic Four. But Conan would outsell Captain America most of the time. Yeah, no, that's cool. I'll see if I can jump on here later if I can. I'll get back with you about the comic soon. Yeah, hit me with a link. I don't know how long. I'm not feeling that well. I had an asthma attack earlier today. I'm not feeling that well. My voice is kind of shot, so I wasn't going to be on here more than very long. But yeah, I appreciate you stopping by. Hit me with that link, and I'll get with you on the how to get my hands on your comic book. It's definitely... I need all the inspiration I can get. And I saw you did that. I was like, yeah, because, that's where I'm trying to get to. I got to hire an artist, though. But yeah, hit me up. Thanks. But yeah, Rom, I thought the Dire Race were pretty cool. But yeah, this panel right here. This panel right here is just badass. I love this panel right here where he's just shredding these race with his gun because he can see who they are, and they're like, oh, shit. His energy analyzer will not harm them. Its only function is just to reveal the truth about us. I was like, oh, wow. And they're like, oh, these people think these dudes have been like living with everyone for the longest time, and they're like, he just murdered these guys. So of course they have to go with authorities are after Rom and all that. And I couldn't wait to see Rom like tangle with some other heroes. And I'm so glad now that some of the issues I don't have digitally that included Rom are now going to be available where I can get them digitally. And like the Power Man Iron Fist, when they encounter Rom, there's a couple other, the X-Men have a thing where they encounter Rom. Marvel can't show that stuff because they didn't have any kind of rights to Rom. Rom, I believe, is Hasbro now. Could be wrong about that, but oh my God. You talk about memories coming back. Spider-Woman, I was there, the first episode of Spider-Woman. It was kind of lame. But Jessica Drew, Mighty Man and Yuck, that didn't last very long. That wasn't very good. I remember I was sitting there going, premiere of Saturday morning cartoons. That was one. This was our TV guide, the comic book ads, because you got to know what the Saturday morning cartoon lineups were going to be. I'm like, oh. And I was like, cool, and there's only ABC, NBC, and CBS. That's all you had, and this was ABC. Plastic Man sucked. And then the second season, this is 1979. The second season in 1980, they had Baby Plaz. And I'm like, man, y'all are just losing it. So it was cool. There's I can't believe Rickety Rocket. I only watched about 2 episodes of Rickety Rocket. It just wasn't my thing. But yeah, Rickety Rocket. I tried to watch it. I would always like channel flip and like check shit out, and then I would get my routine of what I'd watch in the morning. It'd be Looney Tunes at 7 a.m. and I'd freaking piss my dad off because my dad normally got up at 5 a.m. like every day, but on Saturdays before he went. My dad, he was an engineer, but he would do farming. He would drive to his dad's farm like 2 hours every weekend on Saturday morning. He would sleep in a little bit until like 7:30. Normally he's up at 5, and he would go and work on the farm, and then he'd drive back to 2 hours. It wasn't quite 2 hours, but he'd drive back to the farm on Sunday afternoon. It used to piss my mom off. You care more about that farm? I was like, well, But dude all he did was work. He hated these fucking cartoons. But I would go in and turn on Looney Tunes at 7 a.m. because they had the good TV in their room. My TV was fucking little bitty about as big as my fucking stream deck here. But I'd go in and piss him off. The only one he'd stop and watch for a minute is that Foghorn Leghorn, the big Foghorn Leghorn. That cracked him up some. But other than that, he was like, "Oh, you're waking me up with these silly cartoons." And I would watch cartoons Saturday morning from 7 a.m. till noon. And if I missed it, or my mom would make me get out of the house or something, oh my God, my whole week was ruined. But yeah, the Super Friends, this was the first year that they had the Legion of Doom, where the Legion of Doom headquarter thing would rise out of the swamp, and they had Solomon Grundy. Well, the year before, they had Plastic Man do a little cameo in a Justice League, Super Friends, I mean, same thing, a Super Friends episode. Every once in a while, they'd throw a nugget in and get an outside character. And Plastic Man was in one, and they had the Flash show up in one. But normally it was just these boneheads with Zan and Jaina and just Aquaman and the normal lineup. But every once in a while, so the year after that, they got Plastic Man his own little comedy, Plastic Man comedy adventure show, which I watched a couple times. I'm like, yeah, that's not what I'm looking for. I love the Super Friends though. But then they had Spider-Man as Amazing Friends come on, and then Super Friends were like, I didn't let my buddies in the neighborhood know I was watching Super Friends though, because they hated DC. I had some judgmental comic book friends. Yeah. And then they had Fang Face and Fang Puss. But Spider-Woman was decent. I mean, there was one or two. I think on the Disney Plus channel, you can, on their retro animation, you can go back and watch a few. I watched a few like 2 years ago, and I was like, it's all right, Here's Rom with that chick again. They're like, I guess that's supposed to be the Pentagon or something. Yep. What are you going to do now? Kill me? And he's like, no, a translator. So yeah, he's got like the universal translator. Those I neutralized were not humans. So he's here. He's just there hunting. The ROM Space Knights were, a little like the Lantern Corps a little bit, or the Nova Corps or whatever. Oh my God, here we go. I wanted that Kiss makeup kit so bad, but the damn thing was $12.99 because I loved Kiss. I mean, they put their blood in a comic book. I was like, you were cool in the elementary school I went to if you freaking like Kiss. Like, we had one dude his name was Daniel Kelly, but he legally had his parents change his name to Ace because of Ace Frehley. I'm not making this shit up. But yeah, he wore a Kiss t-shirt to school every freaking day almost. But I wanted the Kiss makeup so bad, my mom was like, yeah, we're not doing that. 1980 Camaro Matchbox. No, those aren't Matchbox. I didn't have any of these NPCs. This is a model. Yeah, this was a model. I had a model, but it was the General Lee from Dukes of Hazzard. I was obsessed with that. But yeah, I didn't really care about these rubber masks too much. I was like $3.99 because you could get these at the local like department store there, but they had the rubber band thing. They were the cheapies, but yeah, you wear them for 5 minutes, you couldn't breathe. I mean, you would suffocate and shit. But I wanted the Kiss makeup. Never got it. I was bummed. Here's the origin of ROM. Yeah, they're in a cosmic. I like that little dragon thing and that little Galadorian armada, a dark force, omnivorous shape that blocked out the stars as it hopelessly shattered the defense sphere, exposing the armada to a wraith warships. Pretty cool. And these guys are like, they kept it a mystery what they were looking like here. They're shrouded in shadow. I got part of that cut off, don't I? Oh well. Oh. See, the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner show was not good because it was the update. I like the old style Mel Blanc voice Looney Tunes. That was the shit. And where Bugs Bunny's he'd throw the baseball and the whole team would swing at it. It's like a change up, and the thing like floated real slow. But this was one of the things that I watched. I always tried to watch Fat Albert because Bill Cosby was a big deal. We had Bill Cosby albums in the 70s growing up. Bill Cosby was a big deal. But I love Fat Albert show. Jason's Star Command, it was all right. I didn't care about Popeye. Freedom Force was cool. That's Hercules on Pegasus right there. It's kind of cut off a little bit. Freedom Force was really cool. You had ISIS. Why is that getting cut off? Hold on a second. Because I altered it out. There we go. You had Hercules, who they made a blonde dude, long blonde hair, and he rode the winged horse Pegasus. You had Isis. They had a live action Isis that had this real hot chick. She was in one of the 1978 Spider-Man live action with Nicholas Hammond. She was in a couple episodes of that. Smoking hot. Oh, mighty Isis. Yeah. And then you had this kid that could turn into Super Samurai. All he had to say was he was a little Oriental kid. Is that racist? No, I don't think so. Back then, he's an Asian kid. There you go. That's what I meant to say. Whatever. He could turn into Super Samurai. So he was my favorite. And then you had Sinbad, who could control water. They had to... It's always hard to have the water-based dudes know how to do anything. Like, what do you have? They had to end up making Aquaman like super strong because he can't, having aquatic telepathy doesn't help you when you're in a land battle. You know what I mean? What are you going to do? Summon goldfish or something to fight for? I mean, there's nothing you can do really. So this guy, they made him be able to control water, like water spouts and shit. But moral support, that's about it. But yeah, this kid that can turn into Super Samurai, and the Super Samurai visual was cool. He had like a best friend that had an episode where he turned into the Scarlet Samurai, and he was being manipulated by this like evil necromancer dude. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I love Freedom Force. It was on later in the day though. See, 12:30. It was on later in the day, and I remember I would want to go. My friends would start like calling or knocking on the door. Hey, you want to go play baseball or ride skateboards or something? And I was like, yeah, Freedom Force. But the Batman had Adam West and had the voices of Adam West and Burt Ward, actually. And it was the same style animation, the same company, Lou Scheimer, I think it is, that did the Flash Gordon and did the He-Man. Later on did the He-Man stuff. They had some couple of cool episodes of that Batman. It wasn't terrible. He fought dudes like Sweet Tooth and shit like that. The Tarzan I didn't care about. They had a live action Tarzan too with Ron Ely. Ron Ely, yeah, I think. He went on to be like a game show host or some shit. But anyway, why am I going on about the comic book back issues? 150. I wish I could go back in time and get them all. That'd be crazy. Something happened on my Discord. Oh, anyway. Now get 4 titles for the price of 3. Yep. I did this once, and yeah, they're all mailed flat. But they didn't put them in plastic. They didn't bag and board them or anything. My mom let me send one out one time, and got that. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, Rom. But there's Rom. He's got the long black hair here. I, Rom, offer my life to save Galador, Prime Director. So he's volunteering for the Rom project. This is even before they delved into the Weapon X project thing for Wolverine, because you didn't know much about Wolverine's origin in 1979. You were just finding out that he went by Logan in a previous the year before that is when they dropped the bombshell, because the big thing was in the X-Men comic book that had been revitalized with Claremont and Byrne, because it was going to be canceled. I mean, no one was buying X-Men in the mid 70s. It was bi-monthly. It was on the chopping block, kind of like Daredevil. But the big mystery was because they never delved into Wolverine's secret identity, and then they ran with it, and then they ran it in the ground, in my opinion. But yeah, you see him here getting like infused with the Space Knight armor and everything. It's pretty cool. And then they made a legion of like Space Knights. I guess Rom got there's dire race thing. Go Deathwing, destroy the Space Knights. That is so cool. Man. I'd be happy to be able to draw like Sal Buscema. What I like about Sal Buscema's art, yeah, it's a little cartoony, but he does draw he draws action to the point. Like he's famous for his like punching, his panels of like big punches and over the top. But I mean, he knows what excites comic book kids, you know. And, you know, these are directed a little younger, but it's still adult. You know, I knew adults that read this stuff. They were not any like hardworking 9-to-5 adults, you know, that I knew, but you know, some like college dropout adults and college graduate, you know, kind of hippie dudes. They'd read this stuff back then in the late 70s. But yeah, it was geared a little more, you know, that all kind of changed in the mid 80s. They started just saying, we don't care about kids anymore. We're going to just go for the adults, you know, make everything darker. They kind of did that in the early 70s as well with, you know, they started killing characters, Gwen Stacy and stuff like that. But oh my God, Suzanne Summers. That doesn't look like anything. Who is the artist that they got? I mean, this is bad. If I was Suzanne Summers or Kiss, I'd be very I mean, look at this. A friend of mine had the Cheryl Ladd. He had a friend of mine. He wasn't really a friend. I went to elementary school with him. We were kind of friends, but you know, I went over to his house one time and he had Farrah Fawcett and Cheryl Ladd posters, and my mom wasn't going to have that. My mom was like, you're not putting the Charlie's Angels up on your wall, you dummy, you know, in the late 70s. And I watched Charlie's Angels. I loved Charlie's Angels. My sister watched it, so I have an older sister. But yeah, Kiss, and then the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. But I mean, this art doesn't do these posters any justice. But I'm like, Mom, if I buy Whoppers, color photo iron-ons from Whoppers. Yeah, these are put stars on your t-shirt. They also had these posters. And the posters is what I'm talking about. They had that Cheryl. All they did was like shrink down the licensed poster of Cheryl Ladd. Cheryl Ladd was the person that took over. Is that right? Yeah, Cheryl Ladd took over from Farrah Fawcett when she left Charlie's Angels. Farrah Fawcett left Charlie. God, I talk about Charlie's Angels way too much. Farrah Fawcett left Charlie's Angels after the first year because she was married to the Bionic Man, and he wanted her home. It's like, man, I'm rich. You don't need to be doing this stuff. Then they divorced, and she started doing like terrible movies, like Saturn V and shit, which had what's its face in it. blah blah blah. The famous actor that was kind of his career was kind of dwindling down. Michael Douglas's father was in that. Never mind. You got to have a sex scene with Farrah Fawcett though, and you got to see her kind of naked too, which I highly recommend. I highly recommend Saturn V for that. It also has young Harvey Keitel in it. He's the bad guy. Yeah. Okay. Get a life. Approximately 5 inches by 6 inches. So, yeah. You seen? There was a robot with a yeah. You've seen it. Oh, I love that movie. Yeah, it's one of those. It's a bad movie, but I love to watch it. Mostly it's got Farrah Fawcett naked, a few naked scenes of her. But it's good. It's not too bad. But yeah, he was old back then. But they show him like a scene of jumping rope for like. He jumps rope. He gets out of bed in the morning. It's like, I'm going to do my workout. He jumps rope for like 6 seconds. Yeah, they have that robot that goes bonkers on him. Yeah. But yeah, Harvey Keitel is like jealous and wants Farrah Fawcett for him. Never mind. You've seen the movie. I wanted my own baseball card. My mom wasn't going to pay for it. And I was like, yeah, okay. Oh, they hit Ron with the flamethrower down here. Shells have no effect on him. What about the flame? I have flown near stars, human. Your pale, pitiful fire cannot harm me. That's Bill Mantlo. The writer, Bill Mantlo, on this, he was kind of given a lot of the licensed stuff. He did the Micronauts as well. Him and Doug Minch. Did Doug Minch do Doug Minch did the Micronauts. I'm confused. Bill Mantlo was kind of like a fill-in writer. He did a lot of stuff in the late 70s, early 80s for Marvel. Yeah, Doug Minch did which one did Godzilla? I can't remember. I get those two confused all the time. Bill Mantlo's good though. He's a good writer. But he did some of the licensing stuff too. I can't remember what else. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Doug Minch did Shogun Warriors and Godzilla with Herb Trimpe as the artist. I can't remember if Mantlo did Micronauts or Doug Minch. I can't remember. I'd have to look it up. And I'm a Micronauts fan. Oh, great. The memory's going, though, in my old age. Yeah, there's Micronauts right there. Woo. Of course, that was Michael Golden doing I saw that Micronauts art for like the first like 6 or 7 issues. I was like, oh, wow. This is something new. This is something. Oh, I love this. Stan's Soapbox. I used to turn to this stuff and read this stuff first. Maybe it'll say right here. Spider-Woman number 21. Micronauts. Blah, blah, blah. Master of Kung Fu 83. Mike Zeck started doing Master of Kung Fu back then. Then he went on to do Captain America, run of Captain America. Prince of Croyer, Evil Brother Shaitan, recommend Machine Man 12. I'm trying to get scripter Chris Claremont. I'm trying to see if it says anything about, man, look at this stuff you could have gotten. Classic stuff by the master himself. It's all in full glorious color, illustrated by Jack Kirby, Gene Colan, Jim Steranko, and others. It's only $12.95 in hardback. 128 pages. When they put Micronaut characters in Ant-Man 3, that was pretty random. Yeah, they had referenced a couple of those. I went to see that in the movie theater. I hated that movie. I did not like that movie that much. I was like, I don't like the way they're doing Kang. And I've pretty much given up on the movies. I was kind of over the movies after Spider-Man No Way Home. I was like, I just don't care anymore. It's not the same. They've been hijacked. It's just not the same. I'm not going to go into it. But yeah, they had some reference, because the Microverse, they did some Micronauts referencing. That was like Easter eggs and stuff. But I just like those original Micronauts. Every Ant-Man movie has such wasted casting. Why is Bill? Yeah, no, I 100% agree. That was so nonsense. Having Bill Murray in that scene was like awkward. It was like a reshoot or badly edited. It just wasn't. It didn't fit. That whole thing did not fit. And some of the random dialogue by the characters just didn't make any sense. Like whoever wrote that movie, they should. I'm glad they're on strike. Let's put it that way. I'm glad that person's on strike. Stay on strike because you suck. There was a couple scenes I liked in the movie, but overall, if that movie is what they're getting people excited for some kind of climactic building up of a movie like Endgame or Infinity War, boy, they're in for a rude awakening because nothing is moving the needle on that stuff. I just don't care about the movies anymore. And 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago, I was all about those movies. I mean, it was like, oh, forget the comic books for a little while. These movies are killing it. And now it's like, oh, geez, oh, it's fatigue. No, it's not fatigue. It's not fatigue. I never fatigue of this stuff. It's quality. That's what you're lacking. It's nonsense. The movies don't even tie in anymore, it seems like. I mean, I like Paul Rudd, and what they've done to the Thor movies, don't even get me. I loved Thor 1. I thought it was awesome. Since then, oh boy. I mean, come on. That's not Thor. I mean, I didn't even really like him in Endgame. I'm not a fan of fat Thor or humor Thor, or video game playing Thor, Fortnite playing Thor. No. Quit making a joke out of a badass character. Take these characters seriously, you know? Believe it or not, yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, Spider-Man's getting his butt kicked by this martial arts chick. But of course, you can pay her off with Twinkies. June Jitsu. That's pretty cool. I had forgotten about this. Spider-Man meets June Jitsu. And this is Sal Buscema. This is a Sal Buscema rush job art, and he's probably got some assistant inking or something real quick. So it doesn't look like Sal Buscema that much. But yeah, this is Sal Buscema. I mean, that's a Sal Buscema kick right there. That's how he portrayed that. That's a kicker. It's some guy. Some guy said, "Make this." You know, he probably did the quick rough outs, and then some person on their staff, some low level guy on their staff, like maybe embellished it, or maybe I'm thinking way too much about a fucking Hostess ad. I don't know, probably. But yeah, Spider-Man. I mean, he's not going to use his web shooters here. He's going to use a bag of Twinkies. Okay. I love it though, man. I just love this stuff. The charm of these things, it just pulls me back. Yeah. That's how bad the comic books are today. I'd rather read a Spider-Man throwing Twinkies at a martial arts chick than to read some of this new crap. To even open the cover of some of this new stuff. I just can't get into it. But here's Rom. Now, some of these army dudes are like, okay, Rom's onto us here, but we don't know. Maybe Twinkies were better back then, too. They were. I wasn't a big Twinkie fan. I liked the Ho-Hos. I liked the Ho-Hos back then when I was a kid a little better. I really wasn't a fat kid. I sound like I ate every piece of junk food on the block, but I enjoyed my junk food, my candy when I was a kid. Yeah. My teeth paid the price, but hey, what are you going to do? But yeah, the Twinkies were better. They were fresher. They were bigger. I mean, those Twinkies were big. They were like a big old Polish sausage or some shit. You know what I mean? Back then. Now you get them and they're like, now you open a bag of chips, which I don't even eat that stuff anymore. But you open a bag of chips and the bag's this big and you got this many chips. And I'm like, really? They had chocolate ones too. Exactly. They introduced chocolate. They had like strawberry cream filling in one of them for a while till they didn't sell, you know. But I was more the ho-hos because my mom liked ho-hos and the ding dong cupcakes, which my dad would call me. Hey, look, the ding dong's eating a ding dong. I'm like, screw you, Dad. What'd you say? Nothing. Nothing. It's like, yeah, that's what I thought. I never said that to my dad. Trust me, I wouldn't be sitting here right now if I said that to my dad. My dad wouldn't play that game. But yeah, they have a alien gun here. They pull out the old purple alien gun, not to be mistaken for the M16 that the normal army guys. I love how he makes this guy this dire wraith guy right here with this little mask, like evil looking, kind of all of a sudden. He's got like a shadow that's shaped like a villain's mask. And he fires, and that actually damages Rom. Arg, the pain, washing over my circuits and nervous system in waves of fire. So, yeah, he knows, can only be a wraith weapon. So he knows what's up. And they're not even trying to hide it anymore. The truth you will never live to reveal, Galadorian. And then he's like, yeah, I'm going to fry you with my dire wraith fryer. Death blaster ray, and it just blasts them. It puts them in limbo is what it ends up doing. I guess they don't die, but their souls, you can see this little portal thing. What happens actually is, that's a lie. You'll carry the limbo. It banishes them to limbo, kind of like the Phantom Zone if you were to, put it over to Superman. Death is better than eternal banishment. No. You see this little portal. The robot's death ray disintegrated poor Carson. That's not Carson. Sound the retreat, Captain. We're up against more than we can handle. Hey, kids, win a fantastic trip to... I don't remember this at all. This must not have interested me. I didn't like popsicles. I was not a popsicle. I mean, if my friend had one on a hot summer day and his mom was giving them out or something, or he had some, but my mom and dad, they didn't get popsicles that often. Or fudge sickles. That just wasn't my thing. I liked ice cream, but I liked more drink, like cold drinks, like a shake or something. I wasn't like a popsicle. Fudge sickle, I didn't really care. My mom would ask me, "You want some popsicles?" But nah, just give me that money you'd spend on that and buy me a comic book. And that's how I got some of my comic books. You want me to? What do you want for? What dessert do you want for lunch for school? Just save that money that you would have spent on that crap and buy me a comic book. That was kind of where my head was at. If I could if I could swoggle 2 comic books out of her, I'd do it. Fudge sickles and that. Yeah, I just wasn't a fan. Just not something I would care about. Yeah, he destroyed 3 more dire wraiths, banished them to limbo. But you see a wraith right here. So they've infiltrated. So this is Secret Invasion way before Secret Invasion. And better, too. I mean, the scroll, they already did that with the scrolls once. But this lady right here turns into mist and then changes her form into like a bird and then transforms a blackbird in the night. Tomorrow will be a new beginning. By Love Betrayed. Don't miss it. Next month. And I did it. I got it. So yeah, that's the end of that one. I have another digital comic I wanted to see. It's a new one. Oh boy. I have not even looked at it. Oh boy, do I dare? Let's go to the library. I got some real winners in this library, let me tell you. Here we go. Alpha Flight number 1. I have not looked at yet. I do have Swamp Thing. I think I just borrowed that one though. I don't think I bought that one. So we got Alpha Flight number 1, The Fall of X, which I don't read new comic books that much unless they're more independent. I'd rather read like Rob Norton's comic books than the new mainstream comic books. I'd rather read fan fiction comic books or independent. See, I don't even know who these dudes are in the background here. I know this is some sort of Spider Spawn character or something, or I don't know who these. I'm not up on the new. Of course I know these characters. I love Snowbird. That's Vindicator. I call him Vindicator. I know they changed his name to Guardian. John Byrne ended up changing his name to Guardian in the 1981. I always refer to him. Looks like Black Panther. Oh yeah. Because of the necklace. Yeah. Forgive me, I don't keep up on these new characters that they've hijacked. I just don't. I kind of like the Alpha Flight logo thing. I got to make my logo for my comic book look better. I'm just in the early stages of designing it. That's Puck, of course, and Shaman. But I call him Vindicator. I love that name. John Romita. Marvel remembers John Romita. Oh, this is so cool. Yeah, I love John Romita. I mean, he's not in my top 10 favorite artists. He's definitely in discussion of being on that Mount Rushmore. But he was always kind of hamstrung into Spider-Man, because he was the guy that took over from Steve Ditko, Spider-Man. And he's more of a he made more of a cleaner. Ditko made Spider-Man creepier. He put him in the poses, and then McFarlane like expanded on all that. But even guys like Ron Friends and stuff like that. My all-time favorite Spider-Man artist is Ross Andru. I love Ross Andru of Spider-Man, only because that's the Spider-Man that I was introduced to. Jerry Conway and Lynn Wein was drawing it, and that's when I was first exposed to Spider-Man over a long period of time, when Ross Andru did it. John Romita, I love going back, but his Spider-Man's a little too clean for me. I like Spider-Man looking a little... It's kind of weird to say that, but I like Spider-Man looking a little more like gangly. And he didn't draw gangly Spider-Man. He drew a bigger, cleaner... That's a beautiful... a beautiful art. Don't get me wrong. It's just a little too streamlined of a Spider-Man. I have not seen this yet. This is kind of a cool panel. But I still like the old style look of the comic books on the page, where the ink soaks into the newsprint. I'm always gonna like that better. I know progress and quality and all of that stuff, of course, digital, of course. Now this is cool. This is way more rendered than a lot of stuff you see today. I mean, the coolest thing is that force field effect over Puck and Vindicator. I didn't know Vindicator could extend his force field to other people. I'm going to call him Vindicator. Screw him. Weapon Alpha, Guardian, I don't care. I call him Vindicator. I'll change the words. I'm not crazy about this lettering either. The new lettering in comic books. I know this is now the standard, which I understand. I'm just saying it's better than I could do, but I'm always going to be more of a fan of the old style lettering as well. I struggle to read this more than the old school. I wish they would make these. I wish these. I wish this was a little bolder. Is what I'm saying. I mean, you still have to have bold words, to put the emphasis on the word. But I wish everything looked a little bolder. As far as the, while I agree with Snowbird, I think the right call. These people need our help to keep them safe. We've been forced to choose a side in this fight, and I will not lose sleep over the decision we've made. Okay. Neither will I. I don't know who this artist is. It's pretty good. I mean, it looks good, but there's just something about a disconnect in these in the panels. I don't see him like. I don't know. Maybe it's the expressions they give the characters now. I don't know. There's just something different. I'm being nitpicky because I'm rooted in my ways. So, oh boy. The North, strong and free. True North, strong and free. I'm not crazy about that Vindicator there. That pose of Vindicator. And then they throw a coffee on him. You sold them out. I'm going to read this later, but let him go. Then this expression of Puck. He got scalded. This expression of Puck looking at him. I don't know. I'm always more of a fan of the old style comic books. And I hate this. Like a whole page, the fall of X, Alpha Flight, Guardian, Vindicator, Shaman, Snowbird, Puck, Erica Dorian. I don't know who she is. That's new to me. Arthur Adams and Alejandro Sanchez. Now, Arthur Adams, of course, is awesome. Time to sue McDonald's. I saw that. Scott Godlewski. I'm not familiar with Ed Brissom or Scott Godlewski. I've heard that name, but I do not know. Like I said, this newer stuff, I am not up on these new artists. It's good. It looks good. I don't think, why do we need a whole page like this? I like the credits. I liked in the old days when they did creative things to put the credits on the page. Like they would make the credits into a building or graffiti on a, you know what I mean? Or the famous one is when the X-Men are in the Savage Land and they're climbing up that little mountaintop. A lot of the newer digital art looks overly smooth. Exactly. And there's it doesn't look rendered right to me. It just looks digital flat. I'm not a fan of that. Now I know that's the standard now. So you got to roll with the times. I understand, but I'm always going to look at it and go, and it takes me out of the comic book because I'm going to go, whoa, because I always compare things as a reference to the things that I am crazy about, which is the older style. And it's like, oh, you're stuck back in the 70s. I get that stuff a lot. It's time to progress, and screw yourself. I don't care. Now, I'm not saying it's not good. I'm not saying that. It's just I've read so many old comic books that that's my natural reaction to it, But I think the same thing about music. This over-processed music nowadays, I just can't auto-tune, over-processed. It all sounds flat to me. I like a visceral sound, like coming from the studio, the guitars, and it's layered and it just sounds real. You know what I mean? And I know the quality is better now. I'm not saying that, but sometimes, I prefer that old visceral sound, from that you can tell they recorded it on a master tape from a studio and stuff like that. I just prefer that. And movies, I was just about ready to say, movies are the same way. I don't like CGI that much. I am much more, give me a horror movie with practical effects, even if they're a little bit under budget. I don't care. To me, the greatest horror movie is John Carpenter's The Thing. I love that movie. There's no CGI in that. CGI just takes me out. Now, I understand you can't do the Avengers without a CGI Hulk. Can't have a guy in a green rubber suit. Lou Ferrigno was good. He pulled that shit off, but that's a different film stock that they're shooting that on, where they can make it, they blur it a little bit and they, you know what I mean? I'm not technically proficient when it comes to movie film, but you got to have CGI for stuff like that. But I don't like everything freaking digital. Star Wars is a perfect example. I'd much rather watch Empire Strikes Back than any of these new Star Wars movies that have all these characters, because you lose CGI is a crutch. You lose creativity. One of the greatest horror movies ever made, and this is the same with budgets. One of the greatest horror movies ever made was Halloween. John Carpenter's original Halloween. That's a scary ass movie because it's not overdone. It's just perfect enough to scare the crap out of you. It's not overly violent. These new movie filmmakers, they think violence is horror. Violence is not horror. Some dude just slashing, but that's not what made Friday the 13th movies scary back in the day, late 70s, early 80s. That's not what made them scary. It was the setup. You know what I mean? It was the mixture. Yeah, sure, it was violent. You wanted to see how Jason was going to kill a guy. Yeah, it's just not. They don't compare to me. I mean, that original Halloween still scares the crap out of me. I saw that in the movie theater when I was a kid. I couldn't sleep for a freaking month. My sister couldn't sleep for a month, and she was 7 years older than me because she was worried that I was going to stab her in the middle of the freaking night. And now when Rob Zombie does it, he wants to show every facet of Jason's origin. And I don't want that. I want to know bits, and you just want enough to keep that tension. These guys don't keep tension. Horror movies are about keeping tension, and they lose it. They release the tension way too soon. When you find out everything about the damn character, it's like showing, now they would make a CGI Jaws shark, and they'd show the damn thing 15 minutes into the movie. And keeping the tension is Alfred Hitchcock knew that. Keeping the tension is 90%. Oh, he would scoff at these movies now. Alfred Hitchcock would. Tension is 90% of horror. That's my rant. Never mind. What am I looking at? Alpha Flight. Yeah, okay. That's how interested I am in new comic books. All right, let me sludge on because I've not looked at this. Department headquarters, they have to big, bold everything. What happened to the little box? I keep doing that. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Where's Heather? I mean, I can't believe the outrage because Heather McDonald took over the Guardian suit. She became Guardian in Alpha Flight because they killed James McDonald. That was the big death, killing the characters and not bringing them back was kind of Marvel's thing for a while. Then, of course, when editors leave, Jim Shooter leaves, and because Jim Shooter was like, no, if you kill a character, we're not bringing them back. That cheapens Why would you want to cheapen the events? And, as soon as he left, they started we're going to bring all these characters back. I don't know how James McDonald, or if that's even James McDonald. I don't know. But James McDonald, his wife took over. But that's when John Byrne had it. But John Byrne did Alpha Flight for a while. Well, I like to look at that robot or that guy in the suit or whatever. That's kind of neat. I'm not crazy about the color thing, but that's a neat design, I think. It's kind of cool. They're losing me here, but wait, his name is actually Vindicator. Is that right? James. Yeah, James McDonald. Or am I way wrong about that? God, man. Yeah. Or is it Hudson? What did I say? McDonald? I'm glad you called me out on that. What am I saying? James McDonald for? There's got to be a James McDonald somewhere. James Hudson. Or maybe I'm losing my damn mind. James Hudson. James Hudson. Why was I saying James McDonald? There's a James. Oh, I think James McDonald is an MMA fighter. Hold on. The fuck am I saying James McDonald for? I'm losing my I'm glad you said something. Wait, his name is actually McDonald. I'm glad you said something. It's James Hudson. Oh, God, that's embarrassing. Anyway. Trust me, I know. Trust me, I got these comic books off the stand. I should know this stuff. Like I said, the memory's going. Why was I saying McDonald? Never mind. James Hudson. Thanks. You corrected me. I'm glad you did. I would have been making a fool out of myself. Heather. What was her name? It wasn't Heather Hudson. Now I got to know for myself. It was Heather Hudson. Why am I talking about fucking McDonald? Whew. Anyway. Hudson. Thank you. Yeah, they killed James McDonald. Oh my God. I should go to bed. Yeah, they killed James Hudson. Anyway, you already knew that. What is this? See, I don't know this stuff. I'm going to have to read up. Oh, is that Box? That's the new Box. Oh, okay. Which was in Omega Flight. I got you. Already mentioned, thanks to Orchis Sentinel programming, our new generation of Box Sentinels. See, all this is new. So he can control this thing. Yeah, they had a Alpha Flight character named Box. BOX. And he was a new he came from Omega Flight. Or Gamma Flight, or one of the flights. This is all John Byrne stuff. These are John Byrne characters. So this is a new. So they made him BOCH. The actual science. See, I don't remember any of this. I know Box was a character because Puck was a new recruit to Alpha Flight as well. He wasn't in the original Alpha Flight. They had Wild Child and Diamond Lil and Of course, they had Sasquatch, but the Omega Flight had Diamond Lil, Box, Puck, Wild Child. Can't remember the rest of them. I'd have to refresh my memory on that stuff. Somebody more into it right now than I've forgotten half of this stuff. Obviously, James McDonald. Fuck. Anyway, boy, allow me a couple. That's a huge mistake. What is this guy? He's like the Terminator robot guy. He can make his. I was defending myself. That's kind of a cool. I'm just not used to Alpha Flight fighting in the city. Normally they're fighting like in a wilderness or somewhere. This is all new to me. Who is this dude? That's the guy with the necklace. He looks like a male version of the DC character Vixen. See, Snowbird. I like that. Yeah, I love Snowbird. That's Snowbird's name. Annie McDonald. Right? Now I'm I'm not going to let this. Maybe his name's Ray Kroc. Who the fuck? Annie McDonald. Anne McDonald. No, that's not right. God, I'm losing it. I know she was like in the military. Oh, I'm glad. No, if you hear me say something, I misspeak all the time. If you hear me say something, freaking call me out on it. Trust me. What was her real name? Annie something. Because she turned into that Wolverine one time and she lost it. And Wolverine had to talk her down. The character Wolverine had to talk her down. That was in a John Byrne. That was that when they were hunting Wendigo. See, I know that stuff cold. You'd think I'd know the name of the goddamn character. I gotta know this. I think it's Annie McDonald. Oh boy. I'm trying to justify my freaking. You don't see her name. Yeah, I know. She's created by John Byrne, Chris Claremont, blah, blah. No, that's Ann McKenzie. Wrong again. There is no McDonald in the freaking Alpha Flight comic book. Move on. Okay. I was just trying to figure out where my head was at. I know there's a James McDonald in some sort of thing that I follow somewhere. I think he's a MMA fighter. I'll stick with that story. Who's this dude? I'm going to go easy on out of respect for you, old man. This comic book's not terrible. I don't know what Arthur Adams has to do with it. This isn't Arthur Adams' art. Translated from French. Oh, well, that's what's his face. Translated from French. That's North Star. What happened to the old North Star costume? So that's North Star. Yeah, North Star. This is disappointing. Okay. Well, he was the original member of Alpha Flight with Aurora, his sister. And they were French Canadian. Yeah. Now it's coming back to me. I'm sitting there going, but that doesn't look like, for one, North Star had a streamlined comic book. Streamlined costume. Without like this shoulder thing here. And he didn't have a cape. He didn't have anything flying off of it, like this little mini cape. What is the deal with that? That's a full-blown cape. Dakin. It's Fang. So that guy's Fang. So the shadowy guy that we both thought was Black Panther, which would have made sense, his name is Fang. Now this is a Spawn ripoff. That's a Spawn ripoff. Nemesis. Not a fan of the cape. Yeah, I like North Star's original, the John Byrne designed North Star costume with Aurora. Nemesis. Okay. It's a cheesy, and he's got a rapier sword here or whatever. Cutlass sword or whatever they freaking call it. I like the effect they have of the Vindicator's force field effect here. I kind of like that digitally. That's kind of cool. That's not too bad. See, we don't need illumination on the remote and all this stuff. That's what digital coloring. I don't need all that. Fang. I've never heard of Fang. I don't know who. I've never heard of that character. Like I said, I'm not up on the new stuff. I'll admit. I really stopped reading comic books, like being obsessed about it, like in 1988, to be honest with you. I followed a little bit in the mid 90s with the Image guys and all that, just a little when they did Heroes Reborn and stuff, but I just haven't been into it since then that much. Feedback, real name Albert Lewis, biomedical engineer, and his name's Feedback. Couldn't tell you. Formerly of Alpha Flight. Who are these dudes? They're always sitting around a table. I can't believe they're not drinking lattes or something. They can't. They're on the laptop. Call pinged in Garberville. Okay, I don't know. I don't know any of this stuff. Krakoa. Yeah, I'm not a fan of all that. Who's this dude? There's North. I hate that North Star suit. So there's like a team of Alpha Flight guys that are trying to hunt down the original Alpha Flight guys. I guess I'll read the comic on my own time. Dark X-Men. Jeez. So that was it. Department H is about to deploy Box Sentinels. It's only a matter of time before they find you. Why do they smile? Why do they have these smiley smirks? To be continued. So that's Aurora? That's a downgrade. Aurora was... Okay. Hold on a sec. That's a downgrade. That old comic book's a downgrade. Be honest with you. I might check out number 2. I mean, after I read this, and I mean, get with the times, right? Yeah. Or when I go to the comic book shop next time, I might pick up a couple issues. I don't know. I loved Alpha Flight. John Byrne said that he created Alpha Flight, and then he did it, and it was the best-selling comic book of 1981, Alpha Flight #1. But then but he said he lost interest. It seems like half that issue was wasted on recaps. Yeah. Oh, I agree. 100%. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing here. I'm going to bring up what I grew up knowing Alpha Flight. Excuse me. I had an asthma attack earlier today, and I am not the same. I am a little under the weather. I very rarely get them anymore, but when I do, boy, it hits me like a ton of bricks. I can't remember how they list this in this crappy Marvel digital app. If it's uncanny or... Bear with me a second here. Uncanny X-Men, they got so much. Uncanny X-Men Annual. I think it's just... yeah, here we go. Uncanny X-Men, 1963. I'm going to bring this up. Because this is let me bring this over. Come on. You can't see what I'm scrolling here, but I'll have it on the screen here in a minute once I get to it. I love going back and looking at these. I love going back and looking at all the old X-Men that I loved that I picked up off the spinner rack as a kid. Come on, come on, come on. This is one of my favorite comic books. This was like the second year that I started reading X-Men. I didn't when I first started reading comic books in like 1975, 1976, I didn't know what an X-Men was. I mean, like I said, X-Men wasn't on the radar then. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Let me assign that. Boom. There we go. Look at that cover. With the wind, with the blizzard going on, storm shooting lightning at Snowbird here. Who does that cover? Is that Dave Cockrum? Cyclops blasting Vindicator and doing the old judo flip of it's such more so dynamic. 100% trying to get that. Oops. I'm switching apps here, so it's going to be a little. Let me go back to that. The X-Men battle to save Wolverine from Canada's fighting mad superheroes. There we go. That's X-Men 121. They were 40. They had just gotten 40 cents. I got this off of a grocery store rack, Ross's Supermarket in Muncie, Indiana, growing up. One of my first X-Men comics that I bought off the spinner rack. I had gotten a few before, but I wasn't like consistently getting it every month. This wasn't my first one. I had been reading them off the spinner rack. Most of the time I would go, while my mom grocery shopped, I would hang out. I'd make a beeline. Once I found out about spinner racks in 1976, I would go, I'd find my comic book I wanted, I'd keep it in my hand, and then I'd spin it, or I'd put it on the floor, and then I'd spin around, and I'd start reading through as many as I could. And by the time my mom come to get me, I was like, take your time, Mom. Grocery shopping, take your time, And she'd go like she'd normally go like once every 10 days or something. So I always had a chance to get in a comic book. If I was a brat, which was most of the time, I wouldn't get a comic book. But sometimes if she was in a good mood, I'd get two out. Yeah, that's Dave Cocker and Terry Austin did right there. They signed it. Yeah, this is Shootout to Stampede. I know this comic book cold by heart. This is when Banshee had lost his voice power. He overstrained it battling Moses Magnum in Japan. To me, this is the greatest run of comic. The John Byrne, Chris Claremont run, Terry Austin inker run is the greatest run in comic book history. That's just my opinion. It happens to be opinion a lot of people hold, but to me, it's not even. Jim Shooter, this is like Jim Shooter's. He hadn't even been editor-in-chief. I don't think he'd been editor-in-chief about maybe like a year at this point. Roger Stern was the editor of the book, which is a plus as well. Lynn Weens' wife was the colorist. I think that's her wife. It might be his sister. It's either sister or wife. I can't remember. Pretty sure that's, I don't know. They're related. Duh. See, I'm much more, this is just easy. I like the bigger letters. I don't know what font, I don't know the difference in the fonts, but when I make my comic book, this is the lettering I want. And it's also they say to leave more space now on the word balloons. I don't like that. I like it fitting a little more snug inside the word balloons, just a little bit. Like if you'll look at the word balloons now because they want more, I guess they think it makes it easier to read. To me, it makes it harder to read when there's more space. I want it fitting in there like a glove. And that's what this does. And the letters are bigger. And it's just easier to read. To me, these letters just pop more. I just look at stuff like that because I'm thinking about stuff like this I never thought about because I'm trying to develop my own. I'm in the process of going through the steps of developing my own comic book. And this is what I want. I want to know what this font is because to me this reads easier to me. Yeah, there's a lot more word balloons here. Chris Claremont usually has a lot. He's like Roger Stern. He has a lot more dialogue on the page. Not always, but a lot more so than some other writers. But I just love it. But man, it's hard to compare the panels of John Byrne to the panels of today's artists because they're missing the flow of how the characters. I love this. Cyclops is here, like thinking, being introspective, and he's thinking about the crash or whatever, the freak storm that trapped him there in Calgary. This is all planned by Shaman. He did a spell that made the weather so their flight couldn't take off. And you got this hand here, like this is Shaman back in you don't know this as a reader. You don't know this because you've never seen this character before. These are new. Like which way, Cyclops, and you scout ahead, Storm. See if you can spot anything from the air. And everything is like story focused. There's not a lot of filler. The story just, especially with Claremont, the story just flows more than trying to read the new stuff. The characters just seem like they're not talking to each other in some of these new comic books. Yeah, they've got dialogue balloons, but it just doesn't seem like it's viable conversation. It's more like a texting conversation or something. It's just, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. I might be full of it, but this is the stuff I pick up on. And then she makes a fog here so they can slip out. This is another little flashback thing. Vindicator cornered Storm and Banshee in the Toronto Dominion Mall. The battle was brief and no contest. And Sasquatch, this has all happened last issue. Sasquatch throws trying to catch you up a little bit. That was one of Jim Shooter's rules, is the beginning of the story, get the reader caught up. Don't spend a lot of time on it. Just bam, get them caught up in the first page and a half. Bam. Act like this is their first comic book that they've read. But you got to do it. You got to do it seamlessly. You got to do it with a little. So they're thinking this is a trap. He's knocked out. Wolverine's there. They're in the middle of the ice skating rink in the Calgary Stampede here. But of course, it's a trap. An Admiral Sentiment Cyclops, but this time the cost may be more than you can bear by the White Wolf. Oh, man. Look at this. Whew. I mean, when I read this as a kid, I had to get this off of because normally my picks were Amazing Spider-Man, Peter Parker, Spectacular Spider-Man, Marvel Team Up, Avengers, even Hulk would be more of a priority of getting than X-Men. But when I started reading the X-Men in 1970, late 77, early 78, it started to be the thing I was, as a kid, when I go to the grocery store or spinner rack, I was like, X-Men. That started to be like more of a priority. And then it became, especially when the Avengers started going downhill after 1980. I mean, the Avengers were awesome, and then the quality of the Avengers comic books nosedived after 1980. Sorry. Because the X-Men took over. Everyone was talking about the X-Men. But you see pages like this, John Byrne. I mean, how can you not want to get this comic book? This is so badass. Look at these. I prefer these outfits over this new digital, the cape and give me a break. I love these streamlined costumes. Aurora and North Star, like how their belts go opposite. I mean, that's just badass. Snowbird's cool. Sasquatch is badass, just like the Thing. Shaman, Vindicator. Then you've got your, and then Shaman's put up a spell that's put like a wall, like a force field around it. Last time you almost killed Morgan McTaggart, not to mention us in our flight crew. Yeah, X-Men 109. Mentioned and our flight crew in a few hours ago when Sasquatch scragged our plane. Those were accidents. You seem to have a lot of them. Yeah, I mean that incident when he shot his bolt and it bounced off of Colossus at that little pond thing and hit Morgan McTaggart, and Banshee went nuts and tried to kill him. I like this. What is North Star doing? I've been over this comic book before, but man, I read this comic book 100 times when I was a kid. Yeah, like it shows North Star like sneaking around. He's moving behind Cyclops. Beware, Cyclops. They're like, hey, I fear treachery. Buster, your steel skull's rusting. Sasquatch, no, I want no fight. A little late for that, Jimmy McDonald. No, Jimmy Hudson. A little late for that, Jimmy boy. Wolverine, you're awake. You got it, babe. Me and the elf were playing possum. And bamf. Nightcrawler teleports right out of those ropes. Glad to hear we can use your help. And Storm gets up in the air. The woman's airborne, Vindicator. I'll handle her. I always love this panel here of North Star hitting Cyclops in the back there, the back of the neck. Cyclops is down because he's breaking up Shaman's cursed totems here. She's a shape changer. And then Wolverine's bashing the hell. I mean, the action, the flow and the action, there's none of these new comic books can compare to this. Sorry. The key is teamwork, Wolverine. You have it. We have it. You don't. Cripes. Chris Claremont loves to say cripes. That's his cuss word. The Cyclops is trying to get up and holding his neck in the background there. Of course, Shaman's spell is getting out of hand. He's losing control of it for the weather. Shaman's riding air currents out of my reach. I should have known Hudson. See, I should have read this first. I should have known Hudson. McDonald. I should have known Hudson wouldn't let me go. I probably cost too flaming much money. I can't read. I just wish I was going this route alone. They're all fighting over Wolverine. They want to bring Wolverine back to be a member of Alpha Flight. Cool ass judo flip. John Byrne, his most consistent run early at Marvel was doing Iron Fist. So he had he was really good at depicting like the martial arts moves and everything. Frank Miller kind of took it to the next level, but John Byrne could do it as well. John Byrne did some really cool martial arts action panels with Iron Fist comic book. Chris Claremont wrote that, by the way. God, I love those old Iron Fists, man. Submaster 76, cool. No sign of Nightcrawler. Thought he was right behind me. If times were different, this would be fun. And then that picture of Nightcrawler right there is so good. And then he comes down and that's gonna piss her off. Vindicator's still battling Wolverine here. These blasts, and he's about ready to shred him. Of course, Vindicator's got a force field, so now compare this fight to what we saw in that first new Alpha flight. There's no comparison. I mean, look at this page. Storm without her cape. I love that duotone right there. I love that effect on that cape. That is so badass. This is way before digital stuff. That is so cool. They just don't make them like this anymore. And she wraps up Snowbird in her cape, throws her on the ground, and then she goes up there to and she looks good without a cape too. That's like the first panel, I think, that she's gone without a cape. I could be wrong about that, but she's up here doing, and that's kind of John Byrne had Dark Phoenix. A year later, had Jean Grey, Dark Phoenix doing. They got to remember, why isn't Jean Grey in this fight? Well, the Beast and Jean Grey were separated from the X-Men from Magneto's volcano, so they did a whole year storyline in real time, like 12 issues where Jean Grey and the rest of the X-Men weren't together. They thought that they had just discovered that the other party's alive because they were they were at the Savage Land, and then they went to Antarctica. They were in Antarctica, and then they survived they survived Magneto's volcano lair, and then it exploded, and they got separated, and both sides, the Beast and Jean Grey, thought the others were dead. And they went a whole year. So you had a whole year where Jean Grey wasn't with the X-Men. When you're a kid, a year it seemed like forever, I'm like 11 years old when this stuff was out. I love this. She's coming down, and she's like, that took it out of me, controlling that storm. But that pose is what I brought up, Jean Grey, is that he used that same kind of image panel pose in the Dark Phoenix comic book storyline. John Byrne did. And then, you got North Star pounding her, doesn't even know what's going on. And then this was one of my all-time favorite panels. John Byrne drew here just with minimal background, just to highlight the action here. Zrap, and he just blasts North Star. Like, okay, buddy. And I love the visor. I love the visor effect. That is so good. So good. Wolverine. Normally it's the other way around. Cyclops is trying to stop Wolverine from doing some violence, but Scott Summers about to beat the crap out of North Star. He's like, what gives, Wolverine? I thought I'd be holding you back. Well, life's funny like that, throwing you curves when you least expect them. I checked Aurora. She's okay, only a little stunned. As of now, this fracas is finished. It's my scrap, Psych. I told you that. So he agrees to go with the Alpha flight. Yeah, right. So they load him in an armored vehicle. Like, that's going to hold him. I just gave it away. Banshee's lost his powers, basically. He strained his throat. He strained his voice so bad that he can't, his power emanates from his sonic scream, but he can't do it anymore. So they kind of made him like an Interpol agent type thing. They were trying to whittle down some of the X-Men characters at this point. This point, they were kind of trying to consolidate the team to see what the fans, they were listening to a lot of fan feedback, like Nightcrawler, Wolverine, fan favorites, Storm. All the new ones were fan favorites. Banshee had been around before. Love that classic. Oh my God. There's no better. This is the best Wolverine. And I love the brown suit that he had too. Classic Wolverine, man. This is, but yeah, he agrees to get in this armored van and they're going to fly, they're giving him an escort. Why don't they just fly him? I never understood why they didn't put him on a plane or something. But, for story's sake, they load him in like an armored car. Yeah, that's going to hold Wolverine with his adamantium skeletons. But they give the X-Men, the Blackbird, to make sure that they going back to New York, the Canadian Air Force fighters, the X-Men are finally heading home. They had been gone away from, in the storyline, they had been gone from Professor X and the Academy for like over a year in real time, which I don't know how long it is in comic book time, but it was like 13 issues that they had been separated. So they're just now, I think I said this earlier, they're just now discovering that Jean Grey's still alive, and all this. And Scott Summers said when he thought Jean Grey was dead, he didn't feel anything. He felt numb. Wolverine was the one that was broken up about it. So that was kind of the beginning of that love triangle. You were thinking, why does Wolverine care more that Jean Grey is dead and Scott Summers is acting all cold about it? And they're like, oh, we're not going to take this lion down. We're going to go back and we're going to release. We're going to free. Even Banshee's like, I'm in, Scotty. Any objections? Once we get around, we're going to turn back around and we're going to go get Wolverine. And he changed course. And the thumb is placed right here on the side where if you're really paying attention, if you're just kind of reading the words and not paying attention, you don't see Wolverine sitting there. And he's like, Wolverine, how in the blazes? And he's like, what's it look like? He goes, you really think that freaking armored truck can hold me? I've got adamantium claws, you dumbass. Because the X-Men are going home. Cry for the children. And now they're back. Next issue, they're back and they're in the danger room. The trial of Colossus. And they're finally, here we go, John Byrne breakdowns. Terry Austin's so good. Embellishing John Byrne. I mean, look at this picture of Colossus. I cannot do this. So good. Oh, my God. So he shorts out the panel with his claws there. I love it. He's got because they're trying to tap into, like, Colossus has some self-doubts about how powerful he is. Like, Colossus struggles in a lot of the fights because he's untapped potential. He hasn't, being on the farmland back in Leningrad or where he was from, he never got a chance to. He was always trying to hide his abilities a little bit. He would use them like to work on that farm and everything, but he was kind of, an introvert, and he didn't want to show show his abilities. So they're trying to tap in. They're trying to break him out of his shell, is what I'm trying to say. Then Wolverine comes in. You'll both be squashed. So Wolverine's giving him motivation there. He shorts out the panel and said, look, man, I'm going to give you incentive. These walls, you will be crushed. Everyone dies, Petey. Sooner or later, might as well be with a friend. Wolverine, Cyclops shut off the machine. He goes, I can't. Wolverine sabotages the controls. The press is at full power, Colossus. Either you stop it or you'll both die. And he just smashes the press. He just pushes through it, destroys the press. That's awesome. I did it. He's like, yep. All you needed was the motivation, Rusky. But this is the beginning. They're starting to lay the seeds for the Dark Phoenix stuff because Professor X is with the, I know I say it wrong, the Shi'ar Empire, Princess Lilandra. And he hasn't seen the X-Men in forever. Now you're starting to see the first early plot threads of the Dark Phoenix saga. That's Mastermind creating the illusion of Jason Wingard. And it looks like just a innocent little bump into Jean Grey here. She's in Ireland right now with Maura McTaggart at her scientific study lab or whatever you want to call it. But this is like their first little encounter. Jason Wingard. Yep. That's really Mastermind. Hellfire Club is what I was trying to think of. The Hellfire Club saga, which leads into the Dark Phoenix saga. But I love this panel, man. As a kid, I'm reading this. I'm like, oh my God, that's creepy as hell. Because you see its true form through the illusion on the shadow in the background there. So, Mastermind's a real fucking scraggly looking, fucking low down looking scoundrel dude. But he can project images in your mind. That's Polaris, the green hair. That's Alex Summers' girlfriend at the time. Who's Havoc? Yeah, Havoc. I was trying to think of But yeah, this is the first seeds of the Hellfire Club. But what the storyline goes into, and you can kind of, this is kind of the plot thread that starts this. I like this. Dickie McKenzie. I think that has something to do with Roger McKenzie, who was a writer. Shogun, that was a popular mini-series at the time. They got like stuff. I like to look at the stuff on the wall. You can pick up little things. The Kiss poster, did I overlook it? Oh, with Gene Simmons. Yeah, they don't actually make it all a kiss. But yeah, that's definitely Gene Simmons. Yeah, with the tongue hanging out. I don't know if you can see it or not because it's probably small on the screen. But yeah, I was looking. This is supposed to be like a house of junkies or whatever. But this is leading into the Proteus, the little Proteus saga, where they go to Ireland. Maura McTaggart's son becomes Mutant X. He's like a real powerful reality-shaping mutant. And we have Dark Aurora. Oh, she got her hand cut. She reverts kind of back to her roots in Kenya, kind of loses control of her power. That's kind of looks like one of the Morlocks or something, but it's not. But in comes Luke Cage, yeah. Old Luke Cage with Misty Knight. Which they were also doing at the time. Byrne and Claremont did a couple issues where they merged Power Man and Iron Fist together. I went over those a long time ago on my channel. But yeah, Power Man and Iron Fist, the two books were failing, so they merged the two books together. Those are some good issues. Claremont and Byrne do like 3 or 4 issues, kind of paving the way for that merger of that comic book. I love Power Man and Iron Fist. And then you've got Arcade. This is the introduction of Arcade. Of course, you got Black Tom Cassidy and Juggernaut. Prologue right there. Arcade's the name, murder's the game. And then you got these pictures of that's so cool. He's kind of they're trying to make him a little like the Joker or whatever. He's the theme park. He's got the theme park of death. Fun Fair is another name for murder. Murder World is what he calls it. Yeah. The place superheroes go to die. It never works though. He did it, there was some Marvel team ups with Spider-Man and Captain Britain, I think. It was kind of an odd team up where they went to Murder World. Oh, there's Spider-Man right there on the cover. Guest starring the famous Spider-Man, the big pinball machine. Kind of a throwback to the old Batman stuff where they would have Batman did that in like the Silver Age a lot. They would have these kind of covers with kind of Batman in ridiculous environments like a giant pinball machine or a giant clock, grandfather clock or something, and Robin would be swinging on the whatever you call it of the clock. I don't know clocks. I just John Byrne Spider-Man. Oh, so good. See, John Byrne could draw Spider-Man. He's kind of like a mix between John Romita and Steve Ditko when he draws Spider-Man. Romita would definitely very rarely put Spider-Man in any kind of spidery looking poses, which Ditko did all the time. Ditko would have him hang upside down like a spider on the, Romita didn't do that a lot. His style, like I was saying earlier, his style was much more streamlined Spider-Man. But Byrne would take the best of both worlds. He would take the Ditko, a little Ditko style and a little bit of Romita style, and he'd merge them together. Ross Andru did that as well for me. Ross Andru drew a real gangly. I just like Ross Andru's the way he does action. He made the way he drew some of the Spider-Man action poses. It's just classic, man. Very few people, if they say, well, who's your favorite Spider-Man artist? They're going to say McFarlane. They're going to say Ditko. They're going to say Romita. A couple might say Gil Kane. I don't know. But you're mostly going to get Ditko, Romita, and McFarlane probably your favorite Spider-Man, or maybe some of the newer ones that I don't know. That depends on what generation. But to me, Ross Andru and John Byrne are my two favorites. Even though John Byrne didn't do Spider-Man, he did Marvel Team Up Spider-Man, but he didn't do like Amazing Spider-Man, not like a full run or anything. He might have done an issue or something or some covers, but I don't know of any John Byrne runs of Spider-Man, like Amazing Spider-Man. I would have been there, trust me. But yeah, you make some way more spidery looking than Romita ever did. Not to say Romita never did that, but not to the lengths that Ditko. Ditko made him look way more skinnier and ganglier. I mean, Ditko, classic Ditko images of Spider-Man. I mean, Spider-Man, Ditko was responsible for Spider-Man. I'm sorry. It was going nowhere without him. There's Arcade getting the jump on some of the X-Men. Oh, I like that. I had forgotten about that panel where he breaks out. He puts them in these giant energy pinball things. Just kind of a ridiculous proudly welcomes you to Murder World. And he's controlling it all from like a real remote control pinball game there. Pinball machine. I was never really a big fan of the Arcade character. It just seemed like it's okay, but the Arcade character was never one near my favorites. John Byrne seemed to enjoy Claremont and Byrne. Oh, the Proletarian. Yep. Oh boy, is this great. Enjoying yourselves, darlings. Miss Amanda, Miss Colleen, Miss Betsy, Colleen Wing. I surely hope so, because I'm having the time of my life. Before my brainwashing wears off, I figure Colossus will kill the X-Men. They'll be forced to kill him. Either way, they lose and Arcade wins. Yeah, I mean, I was never like a big fan of Arcade, the character. Hey, of course, the little recap and he's laughing so hard. Oh, Colleen Wing is pissed off. You really don't want to make her mad. You're gonna get kung fu kicked at some point. Yeah, this is the little flashback with Captain Britain. They're in giant hat, but yeah, it's a throwback. It's a throwback to some ridiculous Batman stuff. You know, Batman's they used to do that stuff all the time. Not only in the Adam West show where that was always it was always some elaborate scheme. Tune in next episode, same bat time, and they'd always have him like in a giant. I think the Joker was going to turn him into a skeleton key or something. I forget. It's been a while since I've watched all those, but it was always some. Or they'd have him in a giant hourglass, and all the sand would like suffocate him if it come, instead of just killing him. But yeah, I mean that's comic books, and no fun in that. You just can't. I guess the new all that changed later on in newer comic books. Well, we'll just kill you. They took a lot of the fun's been taken out of, and the charm's been taken out of comic books. I love this. I love that picture of Colleen Wing, though. I know she was supposed to be Asian, but they never, I think she was mixed or whatever. But I never, as a kid, it never occurred to me that she was like Asian. I always knew that she was trained like samurai, but it never came across, like, especially in the art, that she was, because they had some Asian characters, like Sunfire and, Shang-Chi and all that. I just never, I don't know. It never really occurred to me as a kid, but I didn't really care about that stuff anyway. Who cares? I like cool characters. I didn't give a shit what color they were or who they represented or all that. I did like the fact the X-Men had, like, all their characters were from different countries. That was kind of cool. As a kid, I always thought that was kind of neat. So they're fighting brainwashed Colossus here. And, of course, they're tapping into... you're starting to learn more about her claustrophobia, because that was kind of made a big deal of in the comic books. Like, she'd freak out. Then you have these like bumper cars with saw blades on them. Just ridiculous stuff. And Wolverine knows that they're in a hologram thing. He goes, yeah, I use all my senses, and the holograms don't carry a scent. Yeah, I thought there was a wall there. So he's seeing through the illusion here. So he rips out the hologram. This is kind of like the holodeck from Star Trek: The Next Generation. And they have robots of Magneto and the Hulk. So Storm gets some air and sheds her costume. That was always cool. I love John Byrne, the way he draws Storm. Oh, that's badass. Ricochet shot. And they're fighting the mechanical Hulk and Magneto down there. This wasn't one of my favorite one of my favorite in the John Byrne runs. I mean, it's a good issue, but it's like, oh, my friends, you're strangling us. Round one to you, X-Men. Until next time, Arcade. Kind of like the Riddler leaving notes and stuff. But this is the start of the... I'm not going to go through all these. I'm losing my voice. Come on, I'm hitting read now. Uh-oh. Lagging. My Marvel app is lagging. Yeah, I need to be drinking coffee at freaking almost 1 o'clock in the morning. This is the start, the dramatic return of Phoenix, because they're starting to put those psionic dampeners in Jean Grey's mind a little bit, because Professor X knows what's up. The mystery of Muir Island. Muir Island is where they're staying with Moira McTaggart in Scotland. I said Ireland earlier, but I think it's Scotland. That's another goof up on mine. Ireland, McDonald's on the brain. Oh boy, I don't know what's going on. Havoc, Jamie Maddox, the Multiple Man, and then you've got Polaris, which is Havoc's girl. But this is Moira MacTaggert's, this character right here, supposed to be Mutant X or Proteus, Moira MacTaggert's son that ended up being a mutant, a reality warping mutant. Here they're tapping into, because she's already been Phoenix once. That was in X-Men 101 is when they first appeared. The first appearance, I think it's X-Men 101. Yeah, Dave Cockrum was still doing the book art-wise, where she was inhabited with the Phoenix Force, and they're trying to tap into that. But they're playing with fire because it's starting to bring it to the surface. And she's thinking that Jean Grey, how much longer, Maura? She's thinking that what they should have been doing is making Jean Grey a more inhospitable host for the Phoenix Force than actually making the Phoenix Force become like craving the coexistence within Jean Grey. So they're kind of causing the Phoenix to rise more to the surface of her personality. That's Mutant X right there. You can see it right there. I hunger but must wait, because he has to drain life forces, the life force of other mutants, kind of like Sauron has to from the Savage Land. Dr. Kyle Lycos. See, my memory's not totally screwy. That's Sauron. Then a little rehash of X-Men 101. More rehash stuff. And more Danger Room. I don't know how I got on the X-Men. Oh, I was looking at the Alpha Flight. How in the hell did I get on the X-Men like this? I've read all these a million times. And there's a cool. This is on Magneto's asteroid, the home of Magneto. He got his butt kicked. He had captured the X-Men early in the John Byrne run, and he tried to enslave them. And the X-Men turned the tables on him within his volcano realm or volcano hideout, and he's wrapped up here because Colossus hit him like a ton of bricks and broke all his ribs, and it's taken him months to heal. He says, ever since his battle with the X-Men beneath Antarctica in the volcano, he's been here nursing his wounds, regaining his strength, refining his plans to become master of the world. So he's plotting his little, I love the helmet over here. And I love this little memory tape, and that's what's the poster I've got on my wall. That's from X-Men #1, obviously, where he's putting up that magnetic shield. There's a little homage back to Jack Kirby from John Byrne there. And then he's having this is showing like the plans that Mastermind has to get Jean Grey, the Black Queen, Hellfire, until the day of the Hellfire Club. That's the first, I believe that's the first mention of it, of the Hellfire Club. You get the first little nugget of info. Chris Claremont did that, man. He'd have little plot threads that you wouldn't even find out what was happening until like a freaking 8-9 issues later. And then he'd have multiple plot threads going on. It drove me nuts as a kid because every once in a while I'd miss an issue. My mom wouldn't buy me a comic book at the grocery store, or sometimes when you're in school, Mom, I hated school. I'm in sixth. I think I'm in sixth grade when this came out. So I'm in school all day, and I know my mom. I'm like, wait till I get home to go to the grocery store. And she's like, screw you. I'm going to the grocery store. You're at school. And I'd come home and she'd already went. And I'd tell her, pick me up X-Men number. I told her one time, pick me up X-Men blah, blah, blah issue. I said, Mom, pick me up X-Men. It's got to be X-Men. It's got to have this number on there. And my mom doesn't know comic books. She knows Superman, George Reed, black and white Superman. And she knew Adam West, Batman. She didn't give two damns about what a Marvel comic book was or a DC. And she brought me home a goddamn Justice League, like some crappy Justice League reprint comic book. I said, Mom, does that say X-Men? She's like, well, if you're going to have that attitude, I won't buy you any more comic books. I'm like, oh, sorry, Mom. But, yeah, she came home. I was excited. I came home from school, and Mom went to the grocery store, and where's my X-Men? Justice League, and I remember the issue. It was the Justice League, and they were fighting Felix Faust. And I was like, and I think they had Elongated Man and freaking Red Tornado, and I just didn't. I mean, I would read through a DC comic every once in a blue moon. And I was like, this isn't as near as good as the X-Men or the Avengers. And freaking, I was so mad. I mean, I was appreciative I had a new comic book for my collection, but, well, she just doesn't care. It's not that she purposely did it. She saw Superman on the cover. Okay, I'll get that dumbass kid of mine a comic book, grab it off of the rack, buy it. It was all crinkled up. She didn't care. She threw it in the bag. The grocery sack with the lettuce or whatever. You know, I get home, the cover's bent, and it's freaking the Justice League versus Felix Faust and some other villain. And I'm like, she's like, oh, I got you a comic book. I said, the X-Men, right? No, I don't know what an X-Men is, David. You expect me to know I've got to worry about getting food and planning out the next week's meals, and you're worried about if I know what an X-Men is. That's exactly the conversation. I remember this shit. I'm like 11 years old. I was pissed. I didn't push it, though. I was like, oh, fine. So I ended up missing I don't even know how I got on. Oh, yeah, I was missing a couple. I'd miss a comic book every once in a while. I'd miss an issue. It's like, oh, yeah, it's first world problems. But, I mean, you know, I had to know what happened. It was fucking bullshit. Justice League. Get the fuck. It was a dumb issue anyway. Oh, yeah, that's Mutant X. That's the one that gives Wolverine a whole lot of trouble because Wolverine relies on reality, his senses. But I can't believe people are still listening to this. Listen, see, there they are. They're reunited with Beast. Jean's alive. See, they didn't know. They're going the whole time thinking Hank McCoy and Jean are dead. I remember this. I was like, oh, my God. Jean's alive. I knew it. But they went like a whole, because they did like they call it the world tour, the X-Men world tour, because they went to Antarctica, they went to Antarctica, the Savage Land, then they went to Japan, fought Moses Magnum, and then they went to Alberta, Calgary, Canada, and then they went to freaking New York, and then they went to Scotland. And that's, you know, they're in New York right now, and like, where's Jean? And she's in Scotland on Muir Island. I'm like, oh, okay. And then they're talking, Jamie Madden, and Jean Grey doesn't know that they're alive either. She doesn't know the rest of the X-Men are alive. And he calls up, calls her up. It's Lorna Dane. I was trying to think of her name. Lorna Dane, Polaris, Havoc's girlfriend. And then you see Mutant X in the window right back there, Proteus. And it's like, human, I need you. Scott, what is it, lad? You've gone pale as a sheet. It's Lorna. I heard her scream. And then the line went dead. And I think the next issue is the one where my mom screwed me over. Pretty sure I missed this one. It was like a couple, but I think my friend had it. I think my friend Daniel, that was like 3 blocks down when I was growing up, I think he got it, and I got to read it like a week later. He was like, I know what happened before you. He'd rub it in my face. Because his mom would buy him X-Men comic books. So, oh, what a badass cover. That is so cool. That cover is awesome. I happen to have In Search of Mutant X. Yeah, this is the one that I had a fit getting as a kid. I have this art on my wall of this cover. It's done by a guy named Greg Murray. It's in black and white, and he redoes covers, and I bought it off of him. But this is Dave Cockrum. Dave Cockram's covers were way better than his interiors. Dave Cockram's interiors are awesome, don't get me wrong. But especially with Terry Austin embellishing, Dave Cockram's covers in the late 70s, 78, 79. Because you got to remember, the X-Men, when he was doing it, was bi-monthly. So they would also have him do covers. And if you go through Bronze Age comics, Marvel Comics, through 77, 78, 79, the majority of the really cool covers are by 2 artists. Now, not all of them, because Kirby came back. He did some covers as well. Dave Cockrum and Gil Kane. And no one does covers better than those two. And this cover is awesome. I mean, look at this. These covers today, man. And most of the Dave Cockrum covers describes what's going on in the book. These covers today are fucking pinups. I bitch about this all the time. They're freaking pinups. Just some pose of a character, which has nothing you couldn't make heads or tails of what's going on. It's like a generic, like they have an inventory storage of just pinups of these characters. And it's so generic. Like, I want to know, like, what's going on. And this one you can't read, but it says In Search of Mutant X. They won't even put that on the covers because they're just trying to churn them out. You know what I mean? There's no thought. I feel like the reader's being disrespected in current comic books because I want the cover to have something to do with what's going on in the story. In Search of Mutant X, and they're breaking into this, coming in firing. I mean, I love this cover. Wolverine's got his claws going. Cyclops is blasting. And they look pissed off. If this was a modern cover for a comic book, they'd all have like some kind of smirky selfie grin on their face. One of them might look mean, like I'm a boss bitch. You know, and one of them might be smiling or something. Fuck out of here with that, man. Nonsense. All right. Oh, look at this. That is so badass. Good God. What a splash page. Yeah, it's a fashion. Yeah. Like one character will be doing some kind of you get the gist. It's so bad. But yeah, Dave Cockrum did the X-Men are having some dress up party. The new X-Men. So, I bought a couple of the digital issues just to mock them, just so I could go over and like make fun of them. And some of the stories, some of the stuff they're pushing is just, oh my God. It's like, how can this be? I mean, I understand this is 40 years ago. I get it. But come on. This is a high bar. I understand. Claremont Byrne, Terry Austin's a hard, probably the highest bar. But still, I mean, come on, you got to try. It's beer o'clock, sluts. That was a actual freaking line in one of the. And they're always sitting around drinking mochas, going through their social media. The fuck is going on? Well, all this. Look at this. They discover Lorna Dane. This guy's been sucked of his life force. Lorna Dane, her being a mutant saved her. And what happens is he's kind of like a vampire. He takes over your appearance. When he drains your life force, he takes over appearance. But I don't think he can do mutants. I think the mutant part, I think he's the opposite of Sauron. Sauron needs mutant energy to keep his form. Whatever you call it. His lizard like, mutant form. The cosmic power of having it's you. You're alive. See, they still don't know they're alive. Thinks they're just intruders. There's a little something going on here too. Even though that's Banshee's girl, Sean Cassidy. Jason, I knew it was you. He's starting the psychic warfare here from the Hellfire Club. He's making her say, Jason, I knew it was you. Because the first thing, she's coming from being knocked out and groggy and sees Mastermind Jason Wingard's face instead of Jason. And the jealousy begins. He's putting that seed of jealousy in Scott Summers. Because he's unsure of himself anyway, like the relationship between the two. He's real insecure. He's my son. There you go. Who's Mutant X, Mora? He's my son. And there, he's taken over. Once again, I hunger. I am consuming this shell too quickly. Must find replacement. So, there he gets another guy. Boom. Reminds me of that Star Trek episode where it was like Jack the Ripper, the spirit of Jack the Ripper that was taking over the Star Trek crew bodies. It's called Sheep in the Wolf's Fold, I think, is the episode. It's original Star Trek with Shatner and Kirk, or Shatner and Nimoy and DeForest Kelley. Never mind. So this is an illusion that she's like riding these horses with Mastermind. He's starting to fuck with her whole reality. And there we go. Trying to his weakness is metal. Proteus's weakness you find out it's metal, and guess who's got a metal skeleton? This X-Men's full of metal, alien, deadly to me. Yeah, like inorganic, like that kind of inorganic material is like kryptonite to him. Metal. It just ain't metal, sweetheart. I got a skeleton made of about $3 million worth of adamantium. You think my bones are deadly? Get a load of my claws. I love that. Snit. So he's warping reality here. The mutant who masters reality. The cover of the next issue is really badass. It's like pink, and yeah, you see like the outline of Proteus. Yeah, here we go. This is Proteus's true form when he's not inhabiting a shell of another human. Like I'll try win, and she like blows the tiny valley, hurl themselves down the tiny valley towards Proteus. And it kind of blows the husk of the shell off of his form, and that's what he's really just kind of energy. The quality of hatred. So cool. Yeah, this is the pink I was talking about. I had this issue in like freaking mint condition when I was a kid, and I kept it. I had it all the way up to like 1999 before I lost my collection, before I abandoned my collection. But I had all of these, but I had this one in like freaking mint. It would have been like a 9 point. It might have had a little spine tick or something, but it would have been like at least a 9.2. Good God, man. What an idiot. What a badass cover. What an absolute sweet cover. Oh my God. I love it. The Power of Proteus. And who is drawing this cover? John Byrne and Terry Austin. Woo! Which I should have known. That's a John Byrne Wolverine right there. I mean, these are John Byrne. It's kind of hard, the background, because the more generic looking background characters. But yeah, that Storm, that face is John Byrne. That threw me off a little bit, but I knew it wasn't Dave Cockrum. I knew that wasn't Cockrum. But I mean, he's drawn a little bit. He's drawn better Storms before, but I always love this freaking how the bold white comes out on the title there. I mean, how do you not want to get this off of the comic book rack when you're a kid? I remember getting this one. It was, oh my God, so good. John Byrne, his big splash pages, awesome. No one does them better. These new comic books, man. Every time I read this stuff, it just pisses me off. These new comic books don't compare to this. I'm sorry what anybody thinks of like Bronze Age comics. There's no comparison. Look at all the rain effect. I mean, even this panel right here where they're singing, that reminds me of one of the panels from their Savage Land, one of the Savage Land issues where they're all sitting around kind of recouping and drinking like some hot coffee here to hot cocoa, actually, but whatever. Oh, it's not a latte at a bar, at a Starbucks. Oh, no, they're actually in the middle of a freaking adventure. They're in the middle of a conflict, a fight. And Wolverine's shaking here because he had a tangle with Proteus. And Proteus is like the first enemy, orange mocha frappuccino. Yeah. It's ridiculous. There was actually a panel where one of them was like complaining about trolls on social media. These guys are like fighting a reality warping mutant on an island outside of Scotland. They're banged up, and what are these new storytellers write about? I mean, this is cool adventures. You know what I mean? This isn't anything. This is so outside of, like, this is so imaginative. You know what I mean? These new writers can't think outside of their own daily routines. Oh, what would I do? Well, I get up in the morning and I do some yoga, and then I get on social media for a little bit and post on Instagram, and then I'm going to go over to the latte bar. Well, that's what I'm going to have my heroes do. Fuck out of here with that garbage. Jesus Christ. I think the runt's faking. Oh, so he's seeing Wolverine a little bit vulnerable. Because a lot of times Cyclops wears the burden of leading the team on his sleeve, like on his emotion. Like you can tell he's always like brooding about, am I leading the team right, or am I destined to fail and get everyone killed, my leadership. And this time he gets and Wolverine's always like poking the needle at him a little bit because he senses Cyclops' insecurities. So here Cyclops kind of turns the table on Wolverine. He sees Wolverine shaking up a little bit. So he said, hey, you've been pretty quiet, short stuff. For Wolverine, that's a fate worse than death. Whatever happened here to Wolverine, he's shaking him badly. He's close to breaking. If he doesn't snap out of his funk, he'll be permanently gun shy. See, that's a thought balloon. That's a thought he's having. Like, that's writing. That's how you write comic books. Not this new. They never even have them with thought, but they don't even have them deep into this type of analyzing his teammates. They don't have anything close to this in his new comic books. And then he's like, for Wolverine, that's a fate worse than death. You've been pretty quiet. So he's going to start needling him a little bit to try to snap him out of this. Something, and it looks like he's being an asshole. Cyclops, leave him be. He's been through a lot today. So I think the runt's faking. He calls him a runt. Wolverine, not a big dude. I love it. And he shoves Kurt away, and he throws coffee or cocoa, whatever it is, throws it right in his face. Yeah, it's awesome. Like, hey, you're too scared to fight, and he's calling him out. Bub, that's the spirit. And he's trying to get him snapped out of his shakes there. That's awesome. Yikes, that was close. You're the man who was going to replace me as the leader. What a joke. Don't make me laugh. I don't aim to try. Yeah, Wolverine or Cyclops flips him there. Cyclops is good at hand-to-hand combat. Nothing like Wolverine, of course, but you're slow, shrimp, moving like you're half asleep. They're like, wait. Cyclops dealt his hand. Let him play it out. My mom threw my comics away in the early 80s because I didn't clean my room. No, I lost my comic books. I had a relationship with a girl. We had rented an apartment together in an apartment complex thing. And I had moved to a new town. And we had a kind of a nasty breakup. We were getting engaged. And it was in 1999. And we moved in together. And she was going through a divorce. She had two kids, and in the storage unit of the apartment, I had all of in the basement where their laundry room was, I had all my comic book long boxes, and we had a nasty breakup, and I just bolted, and I left my freaking comic. I've told this story a million times to my friends and stuff, but I bolted and left. I left all my comic books, and it was thousands and thousands of these. I had at least 2,500, 3,000 Bronze Age comic books. I had every Captain America from 1969 to 1987, even issue 100. I had all the Claremont Byrne Iron Fist, first appearance of freaking Sabretooth I had them bagged and boarded in long boxes. I had all the G.I. Joes, all the Transformers. I had Amazing Spider-Mans from like 150 to like 240. I had every Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man. I had 80% of the Marvel team-ups. I had Marvel 2-in-1s. I had a bunch of Fantastic Four, Avengers. I had freaking over 100 issues of Avengers, all from this. Probably worth now. They weren't all that valuable then because the comic book market had kind of dropped, and I didn't really have them. A lot of them were in great condition. A lot of them were just kind of like in mid condition, because I read them, but I had them all bagged and boarded, and I abandoned my collection. Never went back. I ended up moving in, renting a room off of my friend, and then I bought a house while I was buying a house. But yeah, that breakup, and I just left those comic books. I was like, whatever. And they're probably worth, $50,000 now. My whole collection. I would say that's probably a conservative estimate. Yeah, it's fucking stupid. That's one day I would love to invent a time machine and go back to that day and take the hour it would have taken to load those comic books up. Yeah, it's stupid. It's just, it's insanity. Yeah, I was out of my head. I was not thinking right. I was, what, 30? I'm 54 years old. Yeah, I was in my 30. I was 29. I think I was 29 or 30 at the time. It was like 98, 99. I bought my house in 2000. So not this house, my old house. Maybe they're still there. No. I don't even know if that apartment complex is still there. It was in Richmond, Indiana. Yeah, pissed off. Maybe she's got them. I know where she lives, but that's a long time ago. Nah, somebody hit the jackpot. And like I said, I wasn't into comic books in the late 90s. I just wasn't into them. I had kind of gone, I don't know, I had gone like numb to some of the stuff I loved as a kid, and now I wish obviously I wish I had him back. But yeah, he's battling. He does a little billiard thing, and I don't mean to go in my sob story. I tell that story every freaking time I get on YouTube. But yeah, he ricochets off and hits Wolverine in the back here. He's trying to. Then Wolverine ends up figuring out what he did. I don't know why you've turned again. I love this little battle of Cyclops versus the. This shows how savvy Cyclops is, though. Poor guy. No, trust me. I'm not hurting. I'm all right. I'm over. I'm pretty much over. I'm just like, every once in a while, I'll wake up in the morning and go, "You dumbass," and then I'll get that out of my system. That's one of my big. I'm pissed off about that and getting married in the first place. The lettering going through. Oh yeah, isn't that cool? The laser going through. You're like, yeah, I don't want to hear about your sob story. I want to see the comic book. Isn't that badass? Yeah. Cyclops' blast. Cyclops was always my favorite X-Men. I started reading Dark Horse. I did a little bit. I picked up a few Dark Horse Star Wars because I was starting to get the Star Wars bug again when I knew George Lucas was making those digital ones. You know what I mean? We'll set up a GoFundMe. No. I've gotten some of my. I was never like, I always liked them, but I never really worried about the value too much. I always kept the buyer's guide and everything when I was like in high school, but I just love them. I didn't really care about. I've got them digitally. I can get access to all of them that I ever had almost digitally, except my Godzillas and my Shogun Warriors. They don't have the licensing to those. That's what pisses me off. And the ROM, which I already went over. I had ROM too. I had all the ROMs. I had all the Godzillas. I had most of the Shogun Warriors, not all of them. I had a lot of X-Men. I had every X-Men from like number 98 to like nearly 200. Yeah. You have 5 issues of ROM? Oh my God. The original ROM? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I had all the G.I. Joes, all the I had some DC too. I had some New Teen Titans because George Perez is one of my favorite artists. I had some Batman, The Outsiders. I ended up getting the Vigilante, the Adrian Chase Vigilante, because it was, that was kind of cool. I had some DC, just not that much DC. Couple flashes, I had couple runs of Flash. 5 issues of ROM. That's man, I wish I had those ROMs back. All right, next page here. I had Micronauts. Yeah, man. Spider-Man. I had a bunch of Hulks. I didn't have that many Thor. I had some Iron Man. But yeah, okay, PAX people, peace, I surrender. No way, Summers, you ain't getting off that easy. And he's like, I just did considered a session in the danger room, and he's like, Proteus spooked me, but good. And they kind of figured out what he was doing. Little mini battle to get the edge off. God, I love the way they drew Phoenix with that hair. Oh my God. Yeah, our comic shop has so much ramen micro. Really? I bought a couple old issues of over the summer. I went back to my hometown over in Indiana. I live in Ohio now, and I found he had a couple issues of old Micronauts. They weren't in great condition. They were in pretty good condition. I bought them for like $2 a piece, because I don't care about value. They're not valuable. Yeah. With Atari Force. Yep. I remember that. I had an Atari 2600. I had the Atari 2600, and then I had the Atari 5200 or whatever they called it. Yeah. I remember the day I got the Atari 2600. I played Asteroids all day long. Super cold day at Christmas. Drove my dad nuts. My dad was like, why did I buy him this? The giant controller. Yep. I had ColecoVision, Intellivision. I had Intellivision, the Intellivision 2 later. I had a friend steal that for me in the department store. I got a story about my friend. I'm not going to get into it. We're 12 years old. But he robbed a department store blind with a duffel bag. He stayed in overnight. He stayed in after they locked up a Zayre's department store. I was on the outside. He was spending the night at my house, my next door neighbor, my best friend growing up. And he got in there and hid behind some boxes with a duffel bag. And after they closed that, I'm not making this up. I've told this story many a time. And I was the getaway. And we were on our BMX bikes down by the river. And he loaded up the duffel bag with G.I. Joe action figures, Star Wars action figures, Intellivision 2, the little mini one that came out after the Intellivision, cartridges. Oh, yeah. He was in there, and then he set off the alarm. He went out the back exit and set the damn alarm off. We were BMX bandits. Only time we ever did something like that. We planned that damn caper for a week because his dad had a cabin up in Monticello, Indiana, Lake Schaefer, and they take a big double. They go tenting. They go camping every once in a while. He had a giant foldable duffel bag, and you would unfold that, and that damn thing, you could put a human body in that damn thing. And he got on his bike. We had the bike hidden, and he come running. And he had a little mini bag too. It came with like a mini bag, and he had both bags. And he's not a very big guy, but he's run. And I had the bike stashed, hidden in the little woods down by the river. And we got on the bikes, and he threw the little bag because we thought we heard somebody coming after us out of the store. And I wasn't in the store. I was too chicken, but he didn't care. And he stashed the little bag, and we spent the night, and we got the big bag and took it home. And we were like, look at all this stuff you got. All right. And I was like, that's mine. That's mine. He's like, hey, I was the one that stood. And I was like, yeah, I told you what to get me. And, I have legal right to the stuff you stole. But we went back in the morning. It was a Sunday morning because he spent the night Saturday night. We were down in my parents' basement, and they never came down in the basement. And, we came in. It was like 11:30 at night. We had to sneak in. The basement window would open because my dad would keep firewood. He dropped firewood down in the basement windowsill thing, and so you could just open the basement window thing, and we could climb down in. And my parents never even knew we were gone. And we went back the next morning, and that bag was gone where he stashed that other bag. I was pissed. He's like, I swear I stashed it right there. I said, I know. I saw you do it. And then somebody got it. So there was probably a guy that was cleaning up in there that heard the alarm thing go off. That's a true story. He got me that in television too. Why am I going? Jesus Christ. But that's what happened. Yeah, we were BMX bandits. We terrorized the college, the local campus. We had a BMX gang. It was crazy. We would bunny hop up on the cop cars and stuff on the hood of the cop cars. Oh yeah, we got chased all the time. We were like terrible kids, but well, he's a successful businessman now. I'm not gonna disclose his identity or anything, but he moved out Westway, Western, and started his own businesses. Now he's like an entrepreneur guy. I was like, I got dirt on you, son. Jesus. What issue am I on here? Okay. No, they're still in Muir Island fighting Proteus. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to wrap this up here in a minute. Oh, look at this badass. Jean Grey's got them all as Phoenix. She's got them all like in freaking telekinesis bubble here, field, and the ones that can't fly. Of course, Polaris can fly. She's magnetic. She's got Magneto type powers, so she can ride the magnetic currents. And Havoc, of course, is hitching a ride with her, and Storm can fly, obviously. Then Banshee used to be able to fly when hit with a sonic scream, but he can't do it now. But that is so cool, man. That's so badass. He's transformed my gun into a snake. He's really not going to like Colossus because he doesn't like metal. Your powers are quite useless to me. He turns his optic blast into like flowers or something. The actions of the tiger. Cyclops, what are we going to do? If we attack, we'll be signing Mara's death warrant or worse. Husband? That's so cool. All right, to wrap up the Proteus, and then I'm going to call it a night. I gotta go to bed. I didn't mean to be on here. Yeah. Why is this lagging so much? I'm clicking read now. It takes a minute to load it up. I'm impatient. Come on. Thank you. Come on. Worse than Cartman. Yeah, this damn app. The desktop app isn't that good. The phone app is much better. Normally I'm on my iPad. I'm reading all this stuff, but I can't stream from my iPad. Same old thing, Claremont, Byrne, and Terry Austin. Yeah, more rehashing. They always put them in like these circular panels more. What app is it free? No, it's not free. I pay $9.99 a month for the Marvel Unlimited. It's got like 50,000 old comic books digitally that you can pretty much 90% of what you're looking for. I don't know what you're looking for, but I've got access to like 90% of all the stuff I loved as a kid. So it's worth the $9.99 a month for me. I've been a member for years. The new stuff, I don't care. You can buy comics off of it too. It's kind of like Comixology, but it'll probably end up folding it sometime. You know what I mean? I've got Comixology as well, but unlimited. But you can just go and click. I'll show you. I'll show you here. Let me. But yeah, you can get access to all this stuff, and it's better on the iPad. It's the desktop. The desktop app's not that good. It's just called Marvel Unlimited. You can get it for a huge discount on Black Friday. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's cheaper if you pay it yearly. I think I ended up this year paying it yearly. I instead of paying it for the month. I think it ends up being like $6 a month, which is a deal for me because I use it quite a bit. I go through and read old comic books I like at least once a week because it um kind of motivates me and inspires me a little bit. When I'm sitting there thinking about drawing one of my own characters I'm creating, and I'll go back and I'll look at some stuff and get some inspiration from the old stuff. The new stuff just doesn't do it for me. You can get access to newer stuff. Like I can get I like how they've got it. Oh, that's badass how he's rising up there. I love how his shell is deteriorating. The longer he stays in a body, the body starts deteriorating. This was a cool effect. He pulsates his beam. Wolverine's falling to, it's going to really hurt him. Even Wolverine can't survive that big of a fall. And so he pulse blasts his optic beams. Pulsed optic beams are slowing them down. Colossus catch him. It's still going to bruise him up, but at least he's going to live. Yeah, and this is his true form there. He's really not going to like Colossus, and Colossus just smokes him. Because metal. He's osmium metal, so that's a classic John Byrne panel right here from the side view of him, of Jean Grey levitating the team. So he disperses Proteus's energy form with his slamming him with his metal fists. Pretty cool. Yeah, let me show you what that app looks like. If I go back, oh no. Yeah, right here. See, Marvel Unlimited available now. It'll tell you what you can read. Right here, you can get like the new news, the Women of Marvel, blah blah. Comics. You can see latest comics that you have to buy digitally. Eventually I think this will go under. I think Marvel, maybe not, but they got info about TV, just stuff. I'm not saying it's worth, for me it's worth the money because the trip down memory lane's worth the money for me. I like old stuff. I like going down memory lane on this stuff, all the time. And but if I go over here, I just go to series. And it's hard to find sometimes. It's a lot easier. You can make a library on the like the iPad and the mobile apps is what I'm trying to say. You can make a library where you can just click and have them saved to your library. On the desktop app, you can't do that. I have to I can bookmark them and then just click on them, the link. So a lot of times I'll keep the books I might want to read next week, like bookmarked ahead of time. If I got like 10 minutes to spare, I can, but you got to look them up and it's real goofy how they have them listed. It takes me a minute. Like sometimes they're U for Uncanny X-Men. Sometimes they're under X-Men. If I go to Avengers, you just got to hunt and peck. I mean, they got a search bar, but it doesn't always help you. And it'll show you the years. Avengers, if I want to read I just click on Marvel Unlimited because that'll tell me the digital copies that I have. Then I've got it set for the newer ones. So what I have to do, and I forget how to do this, you can reset your filters to go oldest first, which is what I should do, but I'm too lazy. Show and filter by release date. See, and you can narrow it down, but it always shows you the newer stuff first. So I have to load like 216 issues. So it takes a while to get to the issues I want. it's really clumsy. They don't really care about the desktop app. This is more of a mobile thing. But sometimes when I'm laying in bed, I'll get my iPad and read an old comic book from the 70s or the 60s. If I feel like reading Fantastic Four #1, to go back, you get the idea. Let me show you where the Avengers really started sucking. That's John Byrne right there. I have that one. I had all these at one time. But the Avengers really started going downhill right here. This is awesome because this is David Michelinie and George Perez. Right here at Avengers 202, and then right in here, right around, is where Avengers just started going downhill. They had the trial, the court-martial of Yellow Jacket. This is where they made him like domestic violence against Janet Van Dyne, the Wasp, and they had it out for Henry Pym. And they went through you can see there's absolutely no freaking consistency on the artist. Like they went from freaking classics. They went from classics. They had a John Byrne run. They had George Perez do a extended run. John Byrne. Who else? They had Jim Shooter writing the book for a while. They went from these badass classics right here. They had John Buscema do a couple issues. George Perez. I've been through all these on my stream before. Most of these. But these are some of the best comic books ever produced, in my opinion. Count Nefaria, John Byrne. That's Jim Shooter, John Byrne. The Ultron, Bride of Ultron issues. Korvac Saga, awesome. The Collector, much more. And then they had Byrne come back for a little while, fight the Absorbing Man. And then they had the Dark Scarlet Witch, Chthon storyline run with John Byrne, Mark Gruenwald, David Michelinie, Bill Mantlo here. They fight the Grey Gargoyle. That's more John Byrne. Awesome stuff. First appearance of Taskmaster, George Perez, David Michelinie. Right here, issue 200 is kind of a crazy story where Miss Marvel, Carol Danvers, Miss Marvel, the old one, marries her son. Yeah. It's Jim Shooter. It didn't turn out as good as what they thought it was going to be. But right around here, starting right around issue like 203, 204, the Avengers just went meow and never recovered. Never recovered. And I think this is 1981 by this time. And it just was not good. They had Gene Colan doing the book for a couple issues. Alan Kupperberg. There's just no consistency. There's a couple. Greg LaRocque does a couple decent issues. This one's pretty cool. They come back and have a couple decent issues, but then it just gets bad. And then it gets worse. They introduce Star Fox. They get him in the team, and then they have Hercules on the team instead of Thor. And Avengers never was good after that. And this is my opinion. But the sales went down too. Because the X-Men, this is where the X-Men just started ruling. Everything was X-Men. Same thing happened to Spider-Man. It started going downhill. They had to do the black suit Spider-Man, the Secret Wars kind of gate, and the whole Hobgoblin epic Hobgoblin story arc over all that 2 years where no one knew who the identity of the Hobgoblin was, and then Spider-Man fell off big time, and McFarlane kind of brought it back to life. That's when I started getting out. When McFarlane took over Spider-Man, it had nothing to do with McFarlane specifically taking over Spider-Man. That's when I started dropping out of comic books. That's what kind of lost the luster for me right around, around this time. I think the last issue of the Avengers that I got out of I remember getting this because it had Tyrak, but right around here is when I stopped reading Avengers monthly. I stopped getting them from the comic book. Even though John Byrne was writing it for a while, I just lost interest. Some of these I've never read. Some of these I've never read. But yeah, Avengers just went downhill bad. And in the 70s, Avengers was one of the best titles. And, in the 1980 hit, I started being obsessed with Moon Knight and Daredevil because Frank Miller took over Daredevil and was really good. Everyone was getting the talk, in 1980 direct market, the talk was Moon Knight, Daredevil. Like those two street level heroes kind of, the X-Men were still the best selling title, but those two books for like 2 years was the rage. It was Moon Knight and Daredevil mostly, but Frank Miller Daredevil mostly, but Moon Knight was also a big deal. Came on. Like it was a must have. It was hard to find some of those issues. Everybody was gobbling those up. Bill Sienkiewicz was the artist. Doug Minch was the guy that created the character, was the writer. So yeah, my things kind of changed, and I just got burned. I hate this logo. I hate them changing this logo. I've been through all this. But anyway, I'm gonna drop out of here. I've been yapping for 3 hours, and I need to get some sleep. Get some sleep. I might get back on here tomorrow and look at some stuff, or do some drawing or something, or maybe work on my comic book a little bit. Or I might go back down memory lane with something I haven't done. Maybe some Frank Miller Daredevil. That'd be kind of cool. I haven't looked at those. I haven't looked at those issues in years. It's been a while. But yeah, I appreciate you hanging out. But I'm gonna get out of here. So I will see you. Oh, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Yeah, have a good evening.